They got you outnumbered 10-1.
I like those odds.
Hey everybody, welcome back finally to my Star Wars show. I'm joined as usual by the illustrious Andrew Roscoe, and we're here to talk about the show that is up on my TV behind me, and that is The Mandalorian. Season 3. We've seen the first 2 episodes. Now, we're going to see how this plays out as to whether or not we're going to do sort of the Andor situation of the full season episode by episode review. I think I want to do that, stitch it together and post one Mondo video again, but we're figuring that out. So maybe you'll see this like tomorrow, maybe you'll see this in like 2 months. Who knows? Andrew and I, only Andrew and I know. But what I know right now is that regardless when you see this video, you should join our Discord link in the top of the description to come chat with us about Star Wars or video games or movies in general or whatever you want to talk about. We cover it all. But to make sure you see everything we cover here on Backlot Banter, make sure to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, leave a comment, all the good stuff. But enough of that, because Andrew, as you were just remarking to me before we began, we have never talked about Mandalorian on my Star Wars show. And I said, it's a little bit in Book of Boba Fett. Putting all the semantics aside, we finally have a new marquee proper Mandalorian season. And I don't even want to give any more preamble. I just want your high level 30-second thoughts on the show so far, Andrew.
All right. We got aliens back, Abram. We got aliens again.
Yes.
Thankfully. We have Abrams. We have aliens.
We got both.
We got really cool designs for like mechs, like these like droids and stuff. I want to get into a little bit later on. Probably not the strongest start. I think the season 2 premiere Mandalorian was a little bit more interesting when we had Timothy Oliphant as the sheriff, or I forgot what that title was actually, but we have side quests and side quest galore. Basically, is what's going on. We have a pissed off Bo-Katan. We have we have characters coming back. We have familiar races. We have some interesting areas. We got a glass covered Mandalore planet, the system. Weird abominable monsters from the time traveler movie from like the 60s or something. They look like the underground guy, like with the really bad makeup and stuff. It's for better or for worse, Mandalorian is back. I think that was 3 seconds.
I don't like it. I don't like Mandalorian season 3, unfortunately. And I really do like Mando a lot. I love season 1. I think season 2 is, for me, a little bit more up and down, but it has, on the whole, a really excellent storyline. I really do enjoy where Mandalorian season 2 takes us and the characters we meet and the situations we end up in, like with the Frog Lady. I love the Frog Lady.
Do you think Andor spoiled you?
Well, I think that's part of it. I think that's definitely part of it. Because ultimately, I just think that the script is bad. That's what it comes down to for me.
Sure.
I think that a part of me does hear some of the dialogue lines and go, that they wouldn't have said that in Andor. But at the same time, while Andor has undeniably sort of colored my vision of what exceptional Star Wars stuff on Disney Plus can be, I nonetheless love basically every facet of Star Wars. Even in the Book of Boba Fett, I like that show quite a bit. So while I do think that Andor definitely entirely raised the bar, Mandalorian's trying to do something different entirely. I just don't think the script is very good, and I want to get into that. But what I definitely want to talk about is the small galaxy stuff, because I think it's frustrating. And this is definitely where I was spoiled by Andor a little bit, because like I remember reading an IGN headline that Jon Favreau was explaining how Salacious Crumb survived the explosion of Jabba's sail barge, and I'm like, this is just the complete opposite of what we just did in Andor, right? Now we're just like grabbing characters and throwing them back in. I already did. This is full spoilers, by the way. I already didn't really like the IG-11 thing.
Sure.
I certainly didn't like the R5D4 thing.
Yeah. As soon as I saw R5, I was just thinking like, Uncle Owen, this droid has a bad motivator. Like, what are you trying to pull? Like, I just thought of that. And I'm like, wait, is that the same one? I had to look it up. I'm like, that's the same one. It's not just a similar one. It's the same one. I'm just like, well, this is a weird pull.
They do the same
really
gag.
really far away.
It's the exact same gag. He sparks as soon as they're trying to sell him, and then the guy buying is like, what's going on? And I think partially what's frustrating me about that, and then we can kind of move off of this point as quickly as we got onto it, but it's just disappointing that Mando for a while was all about bringing in new droids and new aliens and new characters and new. Not new in the same way that Andor was new, but just new in its own respect. And I loved that a whole lot. And it just frustrates me because there's no shortage of droids. You know what I mean? It would have been so easy to make Mando a new droid, a new iconic droid that becomes his companion.
That's what they kept trying to tell him. Everyone kept trying to tell him that.
Yeah,
the little Babu freaks. I forget his name. I call him Apollo Creed, but Grief Karg. I forget his name.
Yeah,
Grief Karg.
It's along those lines.
Yeah, they're all like we can just get you a new droid. It's like, no, it has to be that one. It's like we can't fix him, dude. Like he's broken. It's like, okay, what if I go find the part? I'm like, oh my god, we're gonna drag out this like side quest even longer. Okay.
Yeah, and that speaks to I think my largest overarching issue with the show because again, fan service is what fan service is. Small Galaxy Syndrome is not a new concept. I still enjoyed, for instance, Tales of the Jedi a fair amount. When Tales of Jedi is basically only showing you stuff you wanted to see, right?
Yeah, well, it filled in some gaps for us too. It kind of filled, got some background with Count Dooku and what happened to Yaddle and all that. So
yeah, and I didn't the difference between that and like bringing back R5.
Who cares about R5?
Yeah, that to me was like that's a CBR article right there. That exists.
Remember R5? Huh?
Yeah, that exists so the people I used to work with can write an article called "Who is R5D4 Explained," and I just found that disappointing. But on a
300-word article or something.
Exactly. But on a larger level, I think you make an interesting point about the idea of there being side quests so far. Because I think that the structure of the show just doesn't really make sense. We're basically like jumping around without accomplishing very much at all. We begin, of course, with this sort of Mandalorian ceremony, which is kind of compelling.
That was kind of cool.
Yeah. And then this big fucking crocodile Resident Evil monster man jumps out of the water. And we're fighting him. And then Mando shows up and just shoots it with an ion torpedo, whatever. But then the whole function of that sequence and ultimately becomes the person does the forging telling Mando, you got to go to the living water in Mandalore if you want to come back into the Creed.
Which was kind of odd because I don't know if you watched the recap right before that, and she kind of already said that. And it's like why are we going through this twice? Like we kind of know that already. Yeah,
and that's part of the problem. And I saw somebody on Twitter pointing this out of like, it's not just that. It's the fact that we go visit Bo-Katan, who says, no, I'm not coming with you, Mando. We go to Mandalore. Mando gets stuck. So we go to Mandalore. We watch them go down into the depths, into the mines. We watch Mando get trapped. And then we watch in its entirety, Grogu go back up the mines, go over to Bo-Katan, grab Bo-Katan, go back down the exact same mine shaft, back to Mando.
That felt so video gamey to me.
Exactly.
Like you're just backtracking, and by we have to watch the whole backtracking. Like remember, okay, we go through, like you said, we go through the city, we go up, we go through this little crevice where the monsters were. Oh, there's another monster, and then get back into the ship. And it's like, okay, like we could, like, I get what they want to show, like Grogu is like capable now and stuff like that, like he can like do stuff, but like it was a little longer than it needed to be. Which this is like a 32-minute episode, right? Oh no, this is the second episode. Never mind.
It's still barely long. It's a little bit under 40, given
40 minutes,
credits and intro and everything.
Yeah, so I felt like we could have made some better use of that time.
Yeah, I agree, because even if we go back to episode 1 for a second, when we go to Navarro, first off, I really enjoyed being on Navarro. I think it's cool seeing that community flourish and getting a proper Western standoff with that
was cool. I'm a sucker for Western stuff. I love the little Mexican showdowns and stuff.
I thought that was really fun, but again, we arrive for the function of the IG-11 plotline, which then is completely dropped when we go to see Peli, who just gives us R5. There's no, you see what I mean? The entire IG-11 stuff might not have even happened. It should have not even happened because it had no bearing on what happened in episode 2.
Yeah. He just drops the point, like he gets kind of just bullied, not bullied exactly, but you know what I mean? He kind of just gets rushed into like, here, take this. And then he's like, what? He's like, are you sure this is like, she just slides like the cockpit over, like, just go. And it's like you were so determined, but now like you don't, like you just for some reason just stopped being determined. And it was like there was no sense of like epiphany or kind of any meaningful change. It's just like, I guess she rushed him out the door and he's like, okay.
Yeah, and it just makes me feel like when you really get down to it, given that we kind of already knew the redemptive arc that Din had to go on, given that the IG-11 stuff doesn't actually come to pass, the premiere of the show could have been the second episode with
Or
meeting.
both.
Yeah, it could have been combined, but what I'm saying is it made sense, and this is this thought someone had on Twitter of like everything that happens in that first episode on a plot level is irrelevant. It's made completely irrelevant by getting R4 and going right to Mandalore, and then nonetheless going back to grab Bo-Katan, and then going back to Mandalore again. And it's just disappointing to me to see the show that used to be so tight and how it sort of had these procedural stories every week of villain of the week, problem of the week, solve it, and it contributes to a larger narrative. Now we sort of have this larger multi-episode arc structure that just doesn't feel satisfying. And
those used to be earned like towards the end of the season. Yeah.
We did get, which I laughed out loud for, an explanation for why Gina Carano can't be the Marshal of Navarro.
Yeah, kind of like just wrote her out, kind of with the possibility of like being recast or something, kind of.
Yeah, very peculiar that they even felt the need to do that. But that is largely my issue with the show. My only other note on that, and then I want to talk about it. I want to make some observations about the lore and sort of some of the character stuff. I think that the dialogue is kind of weird. Do you feel like Din Djarin is speaking in a way they didn't before? Like telling R5D4 to not be a baby and go out and get the readings. It feels like he feels a little more quippy. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, actually, in an unrelated like note, when I listened to you guys talking about Top Gun Maverick, you say like how they don't do the MCU thing where like, oh, he's right behind me, right? Like they don't, right? We don't get that from the Top Gun Maverick. This felt a little more, a little comedic, a little bit like. But I think some of that maybe just be because Din's character's kind of softened a bit with Grogu around.
Yeah,
maybe he's not so as stoic. I mean, he's still stoic with other people he doesn't really know, but like, I don't know. I kind of feel like in his own element where he's not in danger when he's dealing with like Grogu and a droid, like he might, I can kind of see him being a little more, less, stoic. So
yeah,
it's kind of odd, but I just took a note of it and I kind of just kept going. So
I'm curious, Andrew, what you think of Grogu.
Grogu's, I really like the thing where Grogu, like he finds something cuter than him, and he like the little I forget their name, the Asterians or something like that. And like he just like grabs him and he tries to hug him and like no, like bad baby. I thought that was kind of cute. But now like it seems like he's coming more into his own. Like he is not just as feeble and as weak as we thought before. He does the thing. He basically rescues Din to a certain degree. Then he has to like fall back, right? He has to fall back. And then on the way out, he deals with that ape creature. I forgot the name. Bo-Katan told us the name. I forgot what it was.
Yeah, I forget.
But he sends him just like we see a cutaway and then just flying out of the cave, right? Flying out of the cave. He just hovers over in his little dome thing, gets into the ship and everything, and just kind of gesticulates and stuff. And I don't know really how to feel about that, really. I mean, I was used to Grogu always being the little feeble kind of like, let me use the Force, and now it's time for a nap kind of character, right? And now he's kind of just using the Force, and it's like it affects him in no way whatsoever. So like, I'm a little cautious about like there being like some kind of like power creep where he might be just like blasting the Force for any convenient moment kind of thing. But I think like his progression, because he can't just stay feeble the entire forever, right? So I feel like his arc, if you can even call it that, him developing his abilities and being much more confident and being more like, let me rescue my dad kind of thing now kind of thing. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think Grogu is getting cuter and funnier at a really exponential rate. I love the part when he hugs the little guy. He just looks so happy doing it. And I also just love him constantly like chortling and growling to
The
himself.
flips he keeps doing, that when he has to like eject out of, he does like more I think he does it like twice or three times,
Yeah,
but like he just looks so comical flipping, like it looks like someone just like tossed him. And
yeah.
I guess it's presumably him, like when they go visit what's her name again, Modi
Pelly.
Pelly, right? He does the thing where he like
Yeah,
pops up into her hands and stuff. Like he's very they kind of it was kind of comedic too, like when he goes to try to rescue Din, we see him like hopping and climbing and like vaulting over things, and like he's much more like now like kinetic. He's just like bouncing around doing things.
yeah,
He's not always just like, feeble and sleeping in the dome thing.
yeah. I'm not of the opinion that flippy Yoda in fights is a problem. I know that there's a lot of Star Wars fans that do feel that way.
Mhm.
Um, I don't. I do though feel like Grogu. I don't understand how he moves. Like it kind of does feel like you're like tracking him, like keyframing him in Premiere when he's like flipping around. Because at least Yoda is always like hopping around with a cane. He's got stubby little feet, and he's just marching about. It kind of feels like anything is going on under Grogu's cloak. For all I know, he's a head on a pogo stick, and I
Or
do.
he's like two aliens on top of each other or
Yeah,
something.
I do hope we get a better sense of like Grogu's like anatomy, because if he's going to be moving around a little bit more, it feels a little weird that we don't even really know what his feet look like. He's just kind of like this. He looks like a tree topper, like an angel Christmas tree topper, and he's kind of like pitter pattering around, or so we presume. But I do like him. I do love him zooming around in his little pod. I think
Yes.
that's funny. Putting on the headlight, zooming around, his ears folded down because he's kind of freaked out, but he's helping Bo-Katan. He's like driving his little car around. I, I'm torn on Grogu, but I think that he's more of a character and less of just like a piece of merchandise, as for a while he was feeling like to me for a little bit, because we spent a long time with Grogu doing basically nothing.
Right.
So I like that he has a little bit more of a function.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I liked when they first arrive at Mandalore, and like you see like the city now it's underneath the glass and
Yeah.
everything, which I thought was a really cool shot. I like that. I like seeing that. I like
Yeah.
When Bo-Katan arrives and you get that cool shot like through the clouds of her like piercing through the clouds out of the thunderstorm, and then we
Yes.
see like the whole city down below, like it's just kind of like a very rounded kind of rotunda kind of thing. I thought that was a cool shot. But when they arrive and after they deal with the monsters from the time machine, they you see like the city underneath, and like Matt, like Din just kind of he like walks like to the edge and then he just lets himself fall and like turns on like his little booster pack, and then like we see Grogu going down and they stop and then they do it again, go down even lower and stuff. I like how he just kind of keeps up with him, like at the point where like he doesn't have to worry about him like keeping up with him. Like he just has his thing now, and like Grogu is gonna follow. It's not like he's not like tethered to him exactly. When he gets captured, right? He's separate from Grogu, right? When he gets captured by that really cool design mech spider thing, right?
Yeah.
And he's off on his own. Like he doesn't get caught because he's like not with him. And then later on with Bo-Katan does the same thing where like she pushes him away when she recognizes the danger. So I like how Grogu's kind of for the most part he has a little more agency, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. I do like that.
Bo-Katan. Bo-Katan's just a badass.
What is she doing? What is she doing? She's smoldering and kind of just brooding on her throne in this big giant empty castle that's presumably probably unoccupied, and then we come back later in the episode, she's still there just brooding. Like what is her deal? I don't get it.
I mean, I agree with you in that is she just always on the chair?
Yeah, is she waiting like let me wait here in case someone shows up kind of thing?
Yeah, what's her day to day? She just goes to bed, she wakes up, sits in the throne and hangs out. And I think it does contribute to the sort of video gamey feel of the script, in that she's a quest giver, and the quest giver is in the same place. The quest giver is as you left them. And I felt similarly to when Grogu goes off world to go get Bo-Katan and bring him back, and we return, and Mando is in the exact same place
Nothing
as
has
when we
changed.
left him. And it's like either it took Grogu 5 minutes to go get Bo-Katan and come back, or this fucking hunter creeper that lives underground is just real slow.
Yeah, he's like, oh, they're coming back. All right, let me do the thing now with the tubes. Now they're on their way now. Okay.
Yeah. It deflated some of the tension for me because I was kind of expecting like, oh, we're gonna come back and Mando's gonna be in real peril. He's gonna be like strung up somewhere or someplace. But no, he just kind of like face down in this cage.
And like they're not doing it like and you can tell like he's like
Yeah.
purposely stalling because it seems like he injects him with some kind of like something to knock him out, like some kind of I forget the word escapes me right now. Anesthesia, no,
Anesthetic.
anesthetic. There you go. Thank
Yeah.
you. Right, like he's kind of like stirring, gets injected again, gets knocked out, and it's like what do like we know what's going on, obviously, like out outside Monday morning quarterbacking, but it's like why are you keep putting him to sleep? Why don't you just do the thing you're gonna do? And it's like, of course they can't do that. So
Yeah, I mean, it does, as I was saying, Bo-Katan being a badass. First off, I think Bo-Katan is very attractive. I just gotta put that on the record. I think,
K-Secom, yeah, she's cool.
she's very attractive, and she's a fucking badass in the fight sequences.
Dude, the her little like laser shield thing she has, kind of like the bubble shield thing, reminds me like the Veronicas or whatever. And the way she swings that, okay, I don't understand this. Maybe it's explained in Rebels or whatever. How is she able to use the saber so flawlessly? And Din, it's like heavy for him. Is that explained anywhere?
I can't remember there being an explanation, but to me, it spoke to sort of her skill with. Did she have it at some point? Am I wrong? Has she had the Darksaber before?
I think so, yeah.
I think so.
She mentions how it was taken. I think she mentions how it was taken from her before.
I think she's better with it. And
Okay.
and I just liked her. I liked her fighting that guy. I will say, to the things I did like, I think the whole Mandalore mine sequence has a real like Force Unleashed tone about it. It reminds me in part of when you go to like the junk planet in Force Unleashed, and everything's a bit more like horror tinged and scary. And you got these like weird,
very rusty,
these weird creatures. Because to your point, there are a lot of aliens, and I love seeing all the aliens back. But then I also love seeing like these fucked up creatures. It's like that junk planet / Felucia Force Unleashed vibe that I really like.
They kind of remind me of the thing from the Death Star that's in the trash compactor, the little bulbous eye thing. They kind of have like that feeling, that kind of vibe.
Yeah, and so I think that's really cool. I liked this sort of tonal shift as we get into the caves, and the violence gets a little bit more visceral. Like we're seeing all the hidden Mando blades like stabbing into guys and cutting them up with the Darksaber, and Mando shoots a couple point blank in the head. It's not necessarily the violence you would expect out of the Star Wars show. So I thought the whole kind of like darker framing was interesting. Mm-hmm. And just seeing that
literally in some instances, literally.
There's a lot of people on Twitter saying the episode is too dark.
I was fine with it, honestly.
The same way. I don't have a very nice TV. I mean, it's a 4K TV. It's a fucking like mass-produced TCL TV they got for $150 on Black Friday. This is not a nice TV, folks. It's not an OLED or anything. And the image looked totally good on my screen.
It was dark as it was supposed to be underground, right. But it wasn't like I had trouble figuring out what was going on. Like it was pretty easy to follow. It was pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Andrew, what else do you want to say about these episodes? Because I feel like I'm kind of running out of steam on them, really.
Well, I liked how it's like not even important, but I like how again, Apollo Creed, I forget his name, Carl Weathers, his character.
Yes.
he's like, oh, you're the I forgot the title he gave him. He's like, oh, I'm like high. Oh, he's like magistrate. I'm a high magistrate. Like he's like very pompous. He's all about like presentation. He has these two little droids that go around and just the only purpose is to hold up his cape, which is just like it wasn't necessary, but I like that it's there to be at all. It kind of just gives us the idea now he's a self-made man. He can afford like all this extra, all this stuff going on. I like the idea, like going back to the Cara Dune thing where like he's like, if you need a marshal, why don't you like ask? He's like, no, like we're not doing this whole Republic Empire.
Yeah.
We're going to be our own separate independent trade center. Like kind of reminds me of sort of, and it's a little history kind of if you are familiar with like with the Middle East back then, like back in like 1600s, how a lot of these like little, or even like Italy, when the Italian states were just very separate, self-independent, they weren't obeying a monarchy. It was very much just a merchant run kind of place. So I like the idea of kind of like the fracturing, right? And it kind of reminded me of like how later on in the sequel movies, we're going to see like how we think that the Republic should be like all back to its power. And it's like, no, like they're still kind of fractured. They're not exactly winning, right? So I kind of like the idea of that. I like how he offers Din like, hey, like you could be like a landed gentry here. Like you can like this nice spot. You can raise a kid and stuff and all that. And he's like, no, it's not my mission. He's like, what? He's like, well, you still have the kid. So like, what is your mission? He's like, oh, things have changed or whatever. And he's like, it's funny because like we had the whole thing with IG-11 and then the showdown with the pirates and everything. And it's not until all of that's done, he's like, oh, like what are you here for? Like, how can we help you? And it's like all this stuff has happened, and he hasn't even gotten to the point of why he's there, right? And I like the monument, of IG-11. Like he's on top of like these like stormtrooper like helmets and stuff, and like it's part monument, part actual parts of him. I thought that you can see like the bronze where it meets like the iron or whatever. I agree with you. I think it's kind of silly to bring back this D tier character, and then like it goes nowhere. He reverts back to his ordinary programming, tries to go this very like kind of creepy zombie mode, crawling on the ground, trying to go after Grogu. I like to what you were saying about a funnier Mandalorian, right? The droid pushes the
I
bus.
did like that. Yeah.
Pushes the bus. He's like, that's using your head. And I'm like, I don't feel like Mando would use that kind of, I mean, he might like think about it, but he wouldn't remark on like, oh, like a quip, right? That's like an quip. It's like, oh, that's what I call using your head. And I'm just kind of, that did seem kind of odd. I was like, okay, whatever, we're gonna keep going.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think protocol droids in general are silly, and they've always been silly. So I like seeing him push the bus over, but then we get hit with the stinger. I'm like, there's a little bit of Kevin F. and Kevin Feige. Not crazy about that, but I agree with you. I love the political situation of Navarro. One of my issues with the sequel trilogy has always been the idea of, so you reestablish this new hierarchy, right? Then it was overthrown again. But what was the reaction to all of this stuff, right? So I do hope that we return to Navarro and we get these sort of political ideas of, do we trust another government? Do we try to keep this independence? So that is a plot line, even though it doesn't really get us anywhere in terms of what Mando's actually up to. Sure. To me, it sets up a really fun, like dueling plot line of figuring out Navarro's political situation. So I do hope that comes back around.
Yeah. He sends like the last survivor after like they basically just, good, bad, and ugly, everybody there, right? Except for that one guy, Vane. He says like, oh, Vane, like go like tell him that we're like this is like a respectable like place again. Like this isn't like, you can't just show up and do whatever. Yeah. Just real quick to talk about, I like the design of that in the second episode. That thing, it has like an organic eye and like a machine head. And it's like this big crab thing with like a rib cage that like just traps it in. And then like when Bo-Katan shows up and like severs it, like you think it's dead. Like it's this weird, like he detaches himself and it's like a kind of like a General Grievous kind of light version, kind of like the way he moves around. I think of like the mono eye that's like a very organic, gives me like Grievous vibes attached to a mechanical body. And then when she like severs it, like the head comes off and it's like a little hermit crab thing and he just goes on to the other body or whatever. Like I'm like, that's a really, I love that. It was very like kind of give me like that Mass Effect vibe sort of. I really liked it. I like for something that's like new and introduced, like that was a really cool introduction. I thought the coolest part we didn't even talk about. We've like, what I love about Mandalorian is like how it introduces like all these really cool creatures. We saw what a crate dragon was with season 2. Yeah. We finally saw the legendary mythosaur, the thing that Boba Fett has always had like on his elbow, right? It's a little pauldron kind of thing, right? Like the elongated horns with a very long skull. Yeah. And then we see like deep underwater, like, oh, like this used to, like legend says this was like the lair of the mythosaur. It's like, it's not a legend. It's true. It's true. Like there is a mythosaur underwater and it's just so cool. It looks so cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming that the good portion of the next episode is to be a huge battle against it. So yeah, it was unclear to me if Mando just fell and didn't realize there's a drop off, or
I
like
thought
if he
that
grabbed
too.
him.
I was like, all that Beskar must be heavy. He must have just sank straight down. I was thinking,
yeah. which was, I think, a very unintentionally comedic because he's in the middle of like giving this speech and he just goes, whoop. But the last thing I just want to mention is the space battle, because we do get a space battle at the end of episode 1.
That's right. Yeah.
I didn't think it was that great, to be honest with you. I thought it was just a little fine dogfighting. I did like the pirate captain's design. I thought he was cool.
It looks like Swamp Thing or something.
He looks identical to Swamp Thing. I wanted to bring that up. He's got like the ooey gooey stuff of like somebody from Davy Jones' crew from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, yeah.
But also the exact facial structure and coloration of Swamp Thing. So he felt different for Star Wars, which I liked though. He just like this kind of captain. But again, it doesn't go anywhere. He doesn't get. I thought maybe Mando was gonna get like captured or something. No, he just kind of. He just punches it to hyperspace and it's away. But
that reminds me, because I think that's the thing from Rebels, right? When Grogu's they're like in the hyperspace little light speed tunnel thing. Like you see like these like those like space whales or something.
Yeah, there's a name for them. Echo something. I don't remember. Spoilers for Rebels. They at the end of the show. Do you want to know? Are you gonna watch Rebels? Yeah.
I'll probably forget by the time I watch it.
Basically, end of the show, Ezra Bridger jumps to a location through hyperspace that he doesn't know. He doesn't know where he's going. And he goes with those whale things.
Oh.
And so I don't know if this is confirmed. I feel like it is. I've been made this also just my reading into it. I believe that in part, if not in full, the premise of the Ahsoka show is trying to find Ezra.
Yeah, because they already casted the guy who's gonna play him. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think as soon as I saw it as well, I was like, okay. So season 3 ends and we see Ezra and the show ends. And it's like and the screen pops up saying like, don't cancel Disney Plus. Ahsoka's on the way. Or something like that.
The Book of Ahsoka. How wild would it be if they called it that? Imagine they just changed the title or something.
The Book of Ahsoka, a Star Wars story.
Star Wars story.
Yeah, I think I'm basically exhausted these episodes. I don't like them, but I mean, it's Star Wars, so there's always elements of it that I do like. And I do think that if we just sort of get the pacing back on track and we get the narrative moving forward a little bit more, I'll be back into it. Because it's just nice to see Mando and Grogu and Bo-Katan doing things. And there's so many interesting concepts of it being on Mandalore and the idea of reclaiming Mandalore and Bo-Katan maybe coming back around to the Mandalorian Creed and Navarro developing and these pirates out there. There's a lot going on. I just don't think these episodes do a good job of communicating it or like propelling us in a direction. So I'm just hopeful that as the season develops and it finds its footing, there's more to enjoy and like a plot and a writing level, because that's really where the show's letting me down so far. But I'll be watching week to week and keeping my fingers crossed that it continues to increase in quality, because I do feel like episode 2, if nothing else, is a lot more enjoyable than episode 1.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty basic. I'm very easy to please when it comes to Star Wars. Like, just don't show me Tatooine and I'm pretty good. Just keep showing us these new worlds, these new planets, these new creatures, these new droid designs, and like just in the premise of, like we're getting more of like who talked about like the Force and stuff, but like the nature of the Watch, right? I think they're called the Watch, right? They have like this their own like religion, like it has nothing to do with the Force, like it's just separate. It's a separate self-contained thing. I like the idea of the first episode being called apostate, right? Apostate, which as someone who's religious as a Jehovah's Witness, an apostate is essentially someone who denounces like the religion. So when I saw that title, I'm like, oh, that's pretty aggressive. And we have like Din kind of like Bo-Katan kind of just again like dismisses like, oh, like, yeah, you're one of those guys, right? Like you're trying to go. You're just, like there's no water, like there's nothing there, like the planet's poison or whatever. He's like he has to go on this pilgrimage to kind of be re-admitted into his society and everything. And I just like the idea of like he has all these opportunities where like he can just settle down. He could just settle down. Of course, that'd be a boring show, right? We can't do that. But like he feels like he's someone of like once he sets out for something, like that's the thing he's gonna do. He's just very stubborn, but he's also just very devout. And I think that's kind of interesting because we don't really I mean, we see that with the Jedi, but not really because the politics of Star Wars gets in the way. But here, like he's like he doesn't have to do this, but he wants to because this is his creed. He takes it
Yeah.
very seriously. So because I was wondering too, like where does he go from here? Like what's the whole point, right? And we're not quite there yet. We see him get there. He starts reciting he takes off his like clothing, his weapons, and just goes and like, oh, like okay. And then Bo-Katan's just kind of watching, like you almost see like she's kind of like can't speak. She's almost like admiring or kind of like what's this going on? Like, let me see what this is. Like, let me see how this plays out and stuff. And he falls off and stuff. But I'm very interested in the story of Din Djarin and where he's going to go, whether spiritually or culturally or whatever it is that's going on. I'm looking forward to it week to week.
Yeah, and we'll be back talking about it right now. And everybody, we're back. We're back for the next portion of the great Mandalorian review. Our clothes have changed, time has changed, but Andrew, the major question on everybody's mind is: have your thoughts on The Mandalorian Season 3 changed now that we've seen episodes 3, 4, and 5?
Yes, I think they have. I saw a funny thing, or not a funny thing. I saw there's a game journalist that we both follow on Twitter. I think his name is Chaz. I can't remember his name. Charlie Walk.
Yes.
Charlie Wall. I can never pronounce his name. But he put like, is it a hot take to say season 3 of Mandalorian's the best? And you put yes. Like yes, it is.
That's all I wrote. Yeah.
And I thought that was funny because like, yeah, I think it right now at this point where we are in terms of like having seen 5 episodes, it might be probably the weakest. I think
I would agree.
I think it's the weakest one actually. So it's very inconsistent. I feel like at this point now we're a little bit past the halfway point because it's 9 episodes, right? I think.
I thought it was 8, but it's not meant. The point is, it's not many.
Yeah, it's not that many, and like at the end of episode 5, it finally seems like we actually have a main objective going on.
Right.
A little too late, I think, but I mean, it's Star Wars, man. I'm not gonna complain too much, but I mean, yeah, I think it's like a roller coaster, man. Just like good episode, bad episode, good episode, bad episode. So so how it's going, I'm expecting next season. I mean, I'm expecting this week to suck just because of the batter we've been seeing. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
We do know that Bryce Dallas Howard, I believe, is doing 2 episodes for that towards the end of the season. And Bryce Dallas Howard always does awesome stuff. I mean, she did the random Mando interlude in Book of Boba Fett, which was honestly really badass. So she's also the voice of Yaddle. That's really neither here nor there, but I want to throw that out.
That's right. For was it the Clone War? No, the
Tales of the Jedi.
Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah. I'm liking season 3 a lot more, but a lot of my enjoyment of it currently is coming from episode 5 and 4 in part, but really episode 5. There's just some things I observe about the show that I find very strange.
Go ahead, fire off.
The first is I don't really understand why the wagon Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni hitched themselves to is training Grogu to be a Mandalorian.
I didn't understand that either. Like at what point did we like hear Grogu like say like this is what I want to do? Or I mean, he didn't speak obviously, but just like oh, like this is what we're doing. Like okay, he's not going to be a Jedi, but he has to be a Mandalorian. Like why can't he just be Grogu?
Right, because they made him basically choose his RPG life path in Book of Boba Fett when he could either stay and train with Luke or take like the Beskar chainmail or whatever.
Want to re-roll your character or something?
Right. And I didn't realize that what that meant is that the 3 show is going to be about Grogu literally becoming like a member of the Mandalorian Creed. And I just find it to be such an insanely short-sighted decision that I don't even really understand why it's the path they're traveling down. Because first of all, him doing that like mock fight with the other foundling. I actually don't know if that other kid was a foundling, but the young Mandalorian.
Right.
And Grogu's like flipping back and forth over him, then shooting him with the training blaster. Like there's a certain camp about it, but I also think it just like illustrates to me that it was a weird decision to make this like the arc Grogu needs to go down, because I also just have never found Grogu to be a compelling enough character to want this kind of development out of. You know what I mean? Like when way back when 2019 Mandalorian's just come out.
Mhm.
I really thought that Grogu was going to be like the MacGuffin for like a couple episodes, and then
Are you talking
Grogu
about
would be
like
gone.
as like back in season 1 or
I'm
what?
talking back in season 1, yeah.
Okay,
I was like,
okay.
we're gonna grab him, we're gonna do something with him, and we're deposit him, and the next arc will begin. But now it kind of feels like if George Lucas was like, fuck it, I'm gonna make a movie where Wicket becomes like an admiral of the rebellion. You know what I mean?
I'm just trying like, jump like that's
Yeah.
just like with like like a coat, like little medals and like, you know what I mean, kind of like an Akbar character, little swivel chair for him kind of thing.
And I love Wicket. And I think
Sure.
Grogu is very cute, but I don't see where this concludes. What do you think about this whole Grogu situation?
Yeah, it's really odd. I just thought like we had to get him out of the Jedi way because like
Right.
we don't want to predestine him to what happens with Kylo Ren and all that stuff, right? About the Jedi Temple and stuff. So it's like okay, we don't want to, we still want a sense of mystery or a sense of like, please be invested in this character going forward. Like we don't know what happens to him, so right. So let's get him off the Jedi path, but also just to reconnect him again with Din Djarin. And so I thought, yeah, I never understood, thought that because he's going to be with Din, that he also has to commit to the same lifestyle choice, the same kind of like path for
Right.
himself. It's like, I don't know, man. It's like if you were rescued by, well, I guess it makes sense, right? Because I think Din Djarin has the same thing, right? Where he's rescued as a
Yeah.
kid and he commits to his new path. So you think maybe that's just ways thinking of like, well, now like I've rescued you for all these different like times. Now you got to like commit to this, right? But I don't know. It's kind of like, my father was a bricklayer, therefore I'm going to be a bricklayer kind of thing, right? Like it's
Yeah.
kind of goofy. I know they have the whole point of that little fight, the little like scrap with the kids to show us that like, because I think the audience immediately we think of like Grogu becoming a Mandalorian, and it's like that's just not feasible, right? So they kind of have like that little trial to show you like, hey, like you can be surprised, like, hey, he beat the kid or whatever, and it's kind of just like, all right, I guess, but like I don't know. It just really feels inorganic. I like for him
Yeah.
to be a Mandalorian, like not just because of the size disparity, but in terms of communication, his lifespan. It just seems really. It doesn't seem like he's optimized for that path.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other part of it, which to episode 4's credit, the part of episode 4 I really loved is when we start to learn Grogu's backstory.
Yes,
I think that if we're going to take Grogu down this path, Grogu needs to be a character more than like a sort of like plushie of the month type
accessory.
design.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so obviously in episode 4 we learn that like basically every character of the Disney era Star Wars canon that's a Jedi, we are somehow intimately tied to the events of Order 66. No, I mean, I get that basically every Jedi was surrounded by clones, and thus every Jedi was touched by Order 66.
Right.
It's like the Super 9/11 of the Star Wars universe. So like, I get it, but we have gotten Order 66 in so many things now that I kind of feel like Order 66 is starting to get played out a little bit.
Sure.
But I do think that of the many Order 66 sequences we've gotten between like Kenobi and the animated shows and Jedi Fallen Order and things, this one was really cool. Now, a lot of it is because of the metatextual inclusion of Ahmed Best, who comes back as Keller Keller and Beck, that's his name. Yeah. That and it's obviously a bit part. Seth, our friend in the Discord, was telling us about how Ahmed Best played the same character basically the kids Wipeout Jedi Trials.
It was like a YouTube
trial show.
game
Yeah.
show. Yeah.
I do hope that the character shows up some more because we now know that there's this gap in time wherein Keller and Beck has taken Grogu off of Coruscant. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, but I don't think we know what happens now between that and Mando finding him in the outpost inside of the show. We don't know about that.
No, not
that
really.
gap.
It just it just shows him going to hyperspace, and then somehow episode 1 of Mando or episode, I forgot if it was episode 1 or 2 of season 1.
Yeah, that's one.
In that lockup, that storage lockup. That's all
And that does make me fairly excited because again, I mean, a lot of that scene's weight is because it was Ahmed Best, and it's cool to see him being a badass.
Wielding,
Hell yeah. But it would be nice to get that relationship fleshed out some more and find out what happened to that character and have just another Jedi in play in sort of the current canon of where everything stands. Because you think about the core Jedi we've gotten in Ahsoka and in Luke, just in terms of the Mando canon.
Oh, okay.
But then even looking at Obi-Wan, there's not that many Force users we see that really last in that show. Let's say
it is funny because I think of and I mean I understand it's not like we can like time travel or anything, but I just always think of like I saw this kind of like meme or picture where it was like Obi-Wan says or no, you know how there's in Empire Strikes Back, right? There's Yoda talking to the Force Ghost of Obi-Wan and like runs off to Cloud City. And he's like, he's our last hope. And he's like, no, there's another. And then like the meme shows like, what's his name? Ezra and Ahsoka and all these people like in the background kind of being like, like clearing their throat. There's like all these unaccounted Jedi who are canonically still alive at this time. But of course, you know, like when the movie was made, like, you know, they didn't know they were gonna do all this stuff and stuff after. But it's just really funny, just like I think of in Kenobi, right? We find out that Quinlan Voss is still alive, right? Like he took like the kind of Jedi Underground Railroad kind of thing, right? Like all these characters, like the Jedi aren't as extinct as you would think they are supposed to be, right? So with Grogu and like all these other Force users, like what's the plan here? Because we know by the time we get to Rise of Skywalker, like these characters are all pretty much dead. They've all died at this point. We have like, you know, Ahsoka's Force Ghost voice and all that thrown, you know, with Rey and stuff. So it's like I feel like they're gonna get kind of, they're playing really fast and loose with how many of these Jedi are alive and stuff. And it's gonna be like, are we gonna have a satisfactory end for all these characters? And it's like I'm just kind of worried that we're just kind of, you know, like, oh, but there was another Jedi, and oh, here's another Jedi, and it's like, oof, like, okay, what are we doing here, guys? Like, you're kind of, you know, you're kind of muddying the waters here for like the Jedi mythos and stuff. So,
yeah, it's tricky, right? Because I haven't Star Wars Jedi Survivor comes out at the end of this month at the time that we're recording. I don't know if this video's gonna be up by then because I don't know when Mando actually wraps. But regardless,
probably not.
Like, what's gonna happen to Cal Kestis? We don't know. Ultimately, though, I do like the idea of learning about the Jedi that did survive, because there's always something a little bit arbitrary about, every single Jedi was killed by the clones. Because, as I've always said about Order 66, if I were a Jedi and my clones attacked me, I would simply kill the clones. Now, obviously, that's very Mark Wahlberg logic. But we know that the clones are adept, but they're not like crazy. You know, they're not a Jedi. Now, obviously,
it varies from like Jedi to Jedi how well they're able to like I remember when we watched sorry to interrupt, but I remember in the Tales of the Jedi where we see Ahsoka routinely drilled by Anakin over and over and over to how to survive against clones. Like kind of like that little like foreshadowing of how to survive against clones. And then like, you know, we have Kia-Di Mundi, who just like on the bridge just stops and just gets slaughtered. Aayla Secura gets slaughtered, right? We have like these different scenarios. So it seems like, you know, like one of my friends said, no one's stronger than the writers. No one's more powerful than the writers. So like depending on the situation, it's like these clones are very adept or these clones are not very adept.
The other thing is, and then you also throw like Plo Koon in there, who I think is the third other major Jedi we see get killed in the Order 66 sequence of Revenge of the Sith. George Lucas kind of wrote it to where every Jedi who gets killed by Order 66 for the most part is killed because they were like It was a surprise attack. Only
Yeah.
Yoda, who executes
Yeah.
Commander Gree and the other soldier, like recognize what's going on. But for the most part, I just never bought the idea that every Jedi was simply overpowered by the clones. So
Sure.
it was great seeing Keller and Beck just fuck up some clones. And now
Mhm.
obviously he had to retreat because then the shock troopers are arriving and like
Mhm.
they got red armor on. You gotta be careful, right?
Those guys are so cool. I love that
I love
design.
them. I love that
The
design too.
Gatling gun or whatever. Yeah, they're dope.
But point is, I like that sequence a lot. But you also said something a couple minutes ago, Andrew, that I want to hammer in here, which is the idea. You were saying it in response to this larger Star Wars trend of what's going to happen to all these Jedi who have to die. But I'm going to say it in the context of Mandalorian, which is what's the plan here? Because I don't know what this season's about. I don't really know what's happening. Now, you make the observation that I think is true that episode 5 gives us a little bit more of a roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
But episode 3 of Mando,
I was wondering we're going to get back to it because we kind of just skipped over it. Go ahead.
Yeah, is very weird to me.
Sure.
It was sort of like Dollar General Andor.
I like that. Okay.
And so I enjoyed it, but it felt very out of place. And I think
For
our
sure.
friend Sam, the Discord, said it best in that we spend this episode learning about these Imperial officers and engineers and soldiers and what have you, who have been sort of reconditioned to be part of the New Republic.
Yeah.
And the episode ends up being about the idea of like swapping one conformist ideology for another. And it actually is sort of a through line that we return to in episode 5 that I find quite interesting, a sort of sowing the seeds for how this new organization of the Galaxy 2 was overthrown.
Yeah.
But as Sam said, and I think it's quite apt, is Mando really the show to be doing this in? Because episode 3, as you collect your thoughts, episode 2 ends with us. Why am I forgetting the mythosaur? Where I was watching with my dad because I was home the weekend episode 3 came out, and I was like, well, I'm sure in this episode we're going to see them fight the mythosaur, and I was explaining to him what the mythosaur is because he loves the Mandalorian, but doesn't. My dad has no fucking clue what mythosaur is.
Right.
But episode 3 begins with us just flying past the mythosaur and concluding like Mando's journey to Mandalore in about 3 minutes. And then we end up on Coruscant with these people. Whole new cast of characters tied to Moff Gideon, tied to cloning, tied to these ideas, but ultimately untethered from Mando and Bo-Katan and the Mandalorians and Navarro and Carl Weathers and IG-11 and all of these people. And I can't understand how in the few episodes we have left these characters are going to matter and why this was a plot line that was shoved into the Mandalorian.
Yeah, you're right. It did seem like I remember the start of episode 3. We're like, okay, we're having this dope shootout with these TIE interceptors, one of my favorite ships. TIE interceptors as their I mean, I'll just because I forgot. I'm just gonna read the quick synopsis for episode 3, taken from Wikipedia. It says after Jaren recovers, he and Bo-Katan depart Mandalore. Though Bo-Katan withholds the mythosaur's existence from him, upon returning to Kalevala, I hope I'm saying that, Kalevala, they are attacked by Imperial TIE squads who destroy Bo-Katan's home and are forced to retreat. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, Dr. Pershing receives a pardon by the New Republic, but is startled to find Elia Kane among the amnesty program's recipients. Kane agrees to assist Pershing in his efforts to continue his cloning research, which has been outlawed by the Republic. They sneak aboard a decommissioned Imperial-class Star Destroyer to steal the necessary materials, but Kane betrays Pershing to the Republic's lawkeepers and later secretly sabotages the mind-wiping procedure used on him, significantly worsening its effect. Jaren and Bo-Katan arrive at the secret Mandalore Enclave, where Jaren presents the armor with a sample of the living waters as proof of his redemption. Because she has also bathed in the waters, Bo-Katan is welcome to the Enclave as well. So, like this, this episode is odd because everything about the start of the episode is like, all right, we're having we continue our Mando
It's
adventure.
fucking great.
Bo-Katan is at her castle, it's blown up, the TIE bombers show up, and it's just like she has a really cool like shootout where she's kind of like weaving and drifting.
Yeah.
And like using like the terrain to her advantage. She makes like the rocks fall down and hit the TIEs behind her kind of thing. Like just it was just really cool. The way she ejects Mando so she can provide backup, and he goes like picks up his own ship, and like it's really dope. It's really
I
cool.
love that sequence.
It's like a very like space Star Wars version of the Fast and the Furious kind of thing. Where we're just kind of, you know, like scrambling and stuff and like having this dope shootout. You're like, oh, okay, cool. And then we just cut to Coruscant, and I'm like, I'm always happy to see Coruscant. I love Coruscant. That's one of my favorite planets. And like, oh, okay, like what's going on here? We're having some kind. He's like, you know, they're having like these dignitaries or something going on here. We have the moment of where he talks to a couple of like very affluent Coruscant, you know, people, and they're like, oh yes, Empire, New Republic doesn't really matter to us that much because, you know, they're just so isolated in the Ivory Towers from the rest of the happenings in the. I think they made that scene very, very like kind of here's like the politics, or here's kind of like the viewpoints of your like, you know, upper inner crust kind of people, right? They went out of their way to do that very deliberately, and then we get to he meets like the other guys who are like, it's basically like Operation Paperclip real life, where like the U.S. takes the Nazi scientists and then just puts them in their own pre-NASA program to kind of use their knowledge and stuff, right? We're kind of doing the same thing, right? Like the last thing you want is Imperials who are like out there, you know, getting together with other warlords and stuff, right? You want to do like a pardoning process, like, you know, you didn't know any better, or kind of thing, right? Or like, you know, I was following orders, you know, that kind of stuff, right? Feel free to jump in anytime, everyone, if you think I'm going off on a tangent or not. But it's just it's like I'm just kind of waiting, like, okay, we're gonna cut we gonna, you know, cut back and forth, but like, okay, this is going on for a while. They reminisce about the good old days, right? You know, like how kind of like how veterans kind of do, like in the military, like, you know, they miss some parts of the rugged lifestyle, right? Oh, he likes these little crackers, these rations he was used to. And then he runs into, I think her name is Kane, right? That's the, and he's kind of like apprehensive. He's like, oh, like I remember her. Like I don't know how she's gonna react or what she's gonna think of me. But she seems to be like kind of all in on the like, yeah, New Republic. Like they liberated us, I think is the line she says, right? And so, you know, they're kind of like talking, reporting. He goes back to his home place or whatever. He talks about how he he believes he can use his knowledge for good, but the New Republic's like, like we're not about that. It's kind of like an ethical issue. We're not going to work it. We're not going to deal with that. And like Kane's like, hey, like if you really think it's going to help the New Republic, like maybe you should do it anyways, right? And we have the whole, you know, they sneak on to the Imperial. She betrays him. They get the stuff, and that's kind of episode 3. And then we get back to like, okay, now we've landed back to the Mandalorian. It's like, oh shoot, I forgot this happened in the same episode. Like, okay. It's like all over the place. It's kind of not all over the place. I'm sorry. It's just very like if you could think of a sandwich, and then like the inside has like nothing to do with the bread or something. That's how it felt.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's interesting because again, I like all the concepts here. I keep checking my proverbial watch, thinking of how many episodes are remaining.
Yeah,
and just wondering why all of a sudden we're setting up the return of Moff Gideon. And now if that gets into episode 5 more, but in episode 3, as we're toying around with the idea of Moff Gideon's crew being around and just toying with this politicking, it just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me on a larger level, even though I like what it's sort of suggesting, because Mando doesn't give a fuck about any of this. And that's kind of the problem with it, in my opinion, because when you spend half an episode of Andor with Mon Mothma politicking or whatever, ultimately that directly concerns, if not Cassian's ends, the larger ideological backbone of the show and everything. Sure. But Mando's just not that. And I think it's totally fine for the Mandalorian just be really cool adventures where Mando's going around fighting the villain of the week and building towards larger narrative. Yeah. But it just felt like a digression. Now, obviously, we'll see how our thoughts on this storyline sort of changes as we get into 5, 6, 7, and 8, 6, 7, and 8, and sort of see when these characters come back. because we do see Kane briefly in episode 5,
Yeah.
when after, for no discernible reason, Zeb Aurelius shows up. And we return to, who, by the way, I'm always happy to see, because as people know, I love Rebels. But we return back to Coruscant for a little bit more hemming and hawing about the New Republic's sort of bureaucratic tendencies, as we learn about. And again, it's interesting,
Yeah.
but it just makes me wonder about the function. And I do imagine that the function will be revealed once we figure out what happened to Moff Gideon, given that episode 5 ends with the sort of obvious inference that he has escaped. He never, as is a sort of question amongst the characters, but pretty obviously spelled out in the narrative, that he never made it to trial, not because he was killed or anything, but because somebody did a smash and grab and grabbed him. So I'll be very curious. Again, I'll just be very curious what this means and how it intersects with the liberation of Mandalore and the unification of the Mandalorians.
I'm much more interested in that storyline. Yeah.
Yeah. I struggle to see what the intersection point between these narratives will be, and if there even should be one in the first place.
Why should it be something like, oh, Moff Gideon was like the one who led the bombing of like Mandalore or something?
It probably will be.
Something like that. Real quick before we move on completely from episode 3, as disjointed as that felt, I'm a sucker for like lore building. I really liked, because this is like an idea I think that came from the EU. I remember from one of the novels where like they're in the like kind of like public squares, like a fairground or something, right? They're kind of like eating like these lightsaber ice cream things or whatever. And they're just like, I think he says like it's a planet of like 1 trillion plus permanent residents. And it's like, Jesus Christ, like, you know, we feel crowded here on Earth with like 6, or is it, we're like, what now, at 9 billion people, I think, something like that. So I can't imagine like even more than that. But like, they come across what looks like just like a rock, right?
Yeah.
And then they talk about like, no, like this is the only part of the original planet that's still like untouched, and it's the highest mountain peak of the highest mountain on Coruscant, like before it became like, you know, a citywide planet. I'm like, oh, that's such a cool idea. It's like it's kind of like if you were seeing like Waterworld, like the concept of dry land, but like this is like the only original part of this planet. Like all the residents of the galaxy have basically turned this into just one massive pile of like trash and apartment complexes and stuff. Like this is the only organic part left. And I thought like, wow, like that's such a cool idea that like this is like we're gonna preserve this one thing. And then like also it kind of gave me like Final Fantasy VII vibes when they're on the train and they're making their way back to cart. And I was like, I'm like, oh, this reminds me of Final Fantasy VII. So like then they jump off at the end and stuff. Like then like the droids just like pursuing them like very slowly, like very Terminator, like let me get that ticket, let me check that ticket. So I just like that. And I also just like the little camaraderie stuff they have going on with like the rehabilitated like New Republic or ex, you know, Imperial officers, where it's like where like they kind of have to like check each other in a way where it's like we miss certain things, but like oh, is someone gonna slip and say they missed the Empire kind of thing, where like they kind of each it feels like they're each like testing each other in terms of like oh, I don't miss that thing, but I miss, you know, I miss the snacks, I miss like the, you know, some of the out like stuff like just very normal stuff, but like it's just like because they're, you know, they all went through the same things. So, like here's like the little like conclave kind of thing going on. So I thought that was interesting, like lore building and stuff like that. So
yeah, no, I agree with you. I love sort of the moment to moment progression and additions to the larger Star Wars universe, and it's something that I do want more of in general. I think part of what makes the prequels so fun to me is just how much they exponentially explode outwards our understanding of the Star Wars universe. Not just in broad strokes, but in the small details. I mean, people are always criticizing George Lucas for like over-explaining with midichlorians or various things.
Like, sir, what are midichlorians? Like, here's exposition.
Yeah. But I also think there's something really nice about that world building and just getting that better, smaller, more granular understanding of how things happen. I'm also conscious of how it fits or doesn't fit into the larger show. And that's just yet to be seen, I suppose.
And the way that they don't really call each other by each other's names, right? They have
Their
like
numbers, yeah.
they have like these government issued like IDs or something, and that's how they're addressed as IDs. Kind of like the idea of like, I guess, deprogramming, right? Kind of in a way where like you destroy the identity kind of thing, rebuild and reshape or something like that. That's what I got out of it. So I'm like all those little things are just like this is cool. Like I love like lore in pretty much anything that I follow. So I'm like, okay, like just the thing like Sam said, like is this really the place to do it? Because I'm thinking like, if you were gonna do, where else could you really do this? Like I don't know, if Ahsoka would you be able to do that? I don't know if this would probably be better suited for something like Bad Batch, maybe.
Right.
But that's set like during a different time, so maybe not. But Bad Batch or like one of the animated shows would be where you could dedicate one episode because it's out of like a 20 or more or 12 or more episode. Like you can have a throwaway episode here, whereas here in Mandalorian, like we really don't have time for filler. That's why Mando's so great, because we just have like these compartmentalized episodes where like there's like an overall branching narrative, but like it's much more self-contained where we're not. That's the main criticism of Book of Boba Fett, right? Where the last 2 episodes it just became like the prologue to Mandalorian. So
yeah. But Andrew, I think it's time that we refocus on the core plot line, and that's what Mando and Bo-Katan are up to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in episode 4, the other element of that episode that we didn't touch on before is what was quite nice, a serialized small-scale problem to solve over the course of the episode, in that the dumb kid who Grogu was having his shootout with gets snatched by a big dragon guy. There's a name for it. I forgot the name.
It's like it reminded me like a pterodactyl kind of like.
Yeah.
I was looking to see if there was a name for it. I don't
know if there is.
It just said it's captured by a large raptor. I think they do call it a raptor in the episode too, I think.
And obviously it's not an especially complex situation that unfolds, but it was nice to return to a small scale problem for Mando to solve, and it opened up the opportunity for Bo-Katan's leadership to develop and her status with the clan to grow, and for us to have a really cool action sequence fighting the raptor and rescuing the kid. So I don't think there's too much to say about that component of episode 4, but I did like getting back to that smaller scale Mando's action.
I did, yeah, I agree with you too. I like I like when they're doing like the little powwow meeting about like what's our next step, and then like Mando's like, hey, like we need oh no, I'm sorry, that's episode 5. I'm sorry, I got confused. No, yeah, episode 4 is we find, I think the kid is the son of Vizsla, right?
Yes.
I forget his first name, but the big armored guy that Jon Favreau I think plays, right? I like the idea of how he gets taken away. She's like, hey, I followed it for as long as I could. Like usually like in the past when this has happened, we just give up because we run out of fuel. We can't keep up with the raptor, or like we just, as we see, like some of them start to like drop off because they're literally running out of fuel in their jetpacks. And she's like, I chased it back to its lair. I didn't try to, if I tried to go in, it probably would have killed the kid. So I just made a note, marked it on my map. And so, she comes back, shows them on the map where they are. She's very tactical thinking. She's like, okay, we need a strike team. She's like, we're gonna do this. We have to get as close as we can without using jetpacks, and we're gonna basically scale the perch and stuff. So like, it's very coordinated. She brings that kind of military background as someone who's been of a royal family who has had to lead. Right, she was the head of was it Death Watch, or what were they called?
I think they're just calling it the Watch in Mando.
Just the Watch.
Yeah,
they dropped that bad PR, right? They dropped the part. The Watch, right? Basically the guys that Darth Maul takes over, I remember, is the group she led. But so she talks about like, we're gonna scale this, we're gonna do this and that, and then I like the kind of like I like the idea of her being kind of reintroduced to this culture, right? This culture. She's not really, I mean, she knows of it. She thinks of them as like, they're like a cultist or whatever, but like about how, okay, you're the head of the hunting party, right? And it's like, as head of the hunting party or whatever, like you have the privilege of like, you can eat by the fire. Now you don't have to go like find a dark corner to eat, like, but we still don't show the face or everything, right? Like this, which is really, I like that kind of how she's kind of getting that culture shock in a way, like, oh, like, this is like what we do, like, oh, okay, all right, like she's kind of just going along with it, like not to be like disrespectful or whatever, right? And then she realizes if she's gonna I don't know, I mean, I don't know what she's thinking in her head, but when she arrives and she sees all these Mandalorians, and I'm just thinking like what she's probably thinking in her head is like oh, like there's like this many of us still around kind of thing, right? We kind of have to think like what she's thinking there, and I'm thinking like, okay, she's probably gonna try to be buddy with these people because like this is the last cultural connection she really has aside from Sasha Banks, who's the other Mandalorian, and the other dude, right? And something like if she was going to retake the planet or do whatever, she's gonna need these guys. She's gonna need these people. So she abides by their traditions, right? And they let her eat on her own. They go on doing it. Everyone else scatters to go eat in the dark. And then like the way she leads the party the next day, scaling or mountain climbing. They eventually get to the. At which point is the flashback for Grogu? Somewhere in here, right?
Yeah, I forget. We to make like an intercession, and then the armorer is making for Grogu his next piece of Beskar, and as it's being hammered out, we're cutting.
That's right.
Yeah.
Grogu stays behind.
Right.
The armorer even tells him like, "Oh, like you're too young for this. Like you're just here." Here it is. I found it now. The armorer forges a new piece of Mandalorian armor for Grogu, a rondel bearing Jaren's mudhorn sigil. As she works, Grogu has visions of his rescue from the Burning Jedi Temple by Jedi Master Killeran Beck and sympathetic members of the Naboo armed forces. Vizsla's over-eagerness to save Ragnar disrupts Bo-Katan's plan and leads to a difficult aerial rescue. Oh, yeah, that's right, because he's like, that's my son. He charges into the nest. And then these big old baby raptors, hair all featherless and ugly looking, pop out. Bo-Katan and Jaren rescue the boy unharmed, kill the raptor, collect its chicks, which I thought was a very weird thing to do, and earn the clan's respect as the armorer replaces Bo-Katan's pauldron. Lost in the scuffle with the raptor, Bo-Katan reveals her encounter with the mythosaur, but the armorer meets her account with indifferent disbelief. So they rescue the kid. Right. For some reason, he's like, we came back with 3 new foundlings. I'm like, there's no way you're going to make these like, I don't know what the proper term is, but like subconscious, like less than beings. Right. I don't imagine they can talk or really, they're no more, they're like animals, basically. There's no way you're going to make them into like Mandalorians. Right.
I think we're probably setting up a Danny Trejo riding a Rancor style action moment where we ride those at some point.
Okay, some mounts. Okay, that makes sense, I guess.
But beyond that, it's either that or the Mandalorian Creed has a very low bar for who can be a Mandalorian
entry.
But yeah, but there's another thing about that sequence I really liked, but I forget it now. So we're just talking about episode 5 because episode 5 is a really good one.
It's not like the flying around and stuff, and they have the Jurassic World moment where they drop the raptor into the water, like a mesosaur.
Yeah,
like oh come on.
Well, what it really is it's a Qui-Gon Jinn who's always a bigger fish moment, which I appreciated.
For sure, yeah.
But it was literally just the big creature from Jurassic World. But then we get to episode 5, Andrew.
Sure.
In episode 5, let me put it this way. In season 2 of the Clone Wars, there was an episode called Landing at Point Rain. And Landing at Point Rain was, and Dave Filoni said as much, basically one big action set piece catharsis apology for the fact that most of season 2 of the Clone Wars before that was like Padme and Jar Jar doing politics.
I remember you told me about this, yeah.
And to me, episode 5 of Mando season 3 was Landing at Point Rain because it really is just one huge action set piece. And I super dug that.
It's probably my favorite episode so far this season, yeah.
Yeah, because there is a little bit of good characterization to it. I love Paz Vizsla. You think he's getting up to do the big, why should the Mandalorians...
Yes. That was the powwow I was talking about.
Yeah. Why should we stick our neck out for these people in Navarro who used to be our enemy? And then he's like, because we're Mandalorians and the music hits. And I'm like, fuck yeah, we're going to battle. I love this.
I love how he does that because you're thinking like, oh, like oh man, like I was like even the points he mentioned like before he mentions, I'm just thinking I'm like they just saved your son the last episode, and he brings that up. I'm like, okay, he gets it.
Yeah, that was a really nice written and executed moment. I thought that was super cool, and for as weird again as the introduction of the New Republic stuff is, I love that we've got the one pilot that we met earlier in the show going out trying to find help for Carl Weathers and ends up finding it in the Mandalorians. I just like how all of the pieces on the board align to get us this far, including the pirate captain who I thought the Swamp Thing pirate captain who was cool, but disappeared, coming back and saying, no, you killed my guys in the street. Navarro is mine now. The way we arrange everybody to get into that big action set piece to me was really well done.
Yeah, because remember we were talking about in episode 3, like what is this the connection? And I'm not saying this is necessarily the like this is what we were leading to, but at least it kind of connects back to the whole like where Kane's kind of she's clearly playing this weird long game in terms of like playing like oh yeah, like I'm reformed, but she's like kind of like she's clearly manipulating I don't remember the guy's name. He always has like the surprised look. His eyebrows are always raised.
Yes.
Tuttle? Colonel Tuttle? Oh no, it's Carson Teva. I think his name is Carson Teva. Yeah, it says Grief Karga Context Carson Teva. So that's the guy from that one supermarket show. I can't remember the name, but it's it. The guy with the raised eyebrows who Zeb talks to, right? And like he's informing like, hey, like, you know, we know that Navarro's not part of now. They haven't like, you know, announced their allegiance to the New Republic, but like we kind of go through there every now and then. We have a couple guys who like stop by there and stuff. And then the character actor, I cannot remember his name, but he's like in so many different things I recognize him from, but the name's not coming to him, but here he is known as Colonel Tuttle, which is kind of a funny name. Yeah. He kind of says, well, if they're not part of, you know, if they're not down with the program, they're not part of the New Republic, then like, he's like, we have this back order of other systems that need our help who are part of the New Republic now.
I do like that idea.
Like we just like a priority. We just don't have the enough forces or the interest really to take care of these things, but we can't even take care of the ones who are actually with us. Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, that makes sense from a logistics place. Of course, you're going to focus on, you know, trying to keep people in than, you know, ignoring them and stuff like that. So, but just like he says, like, hey, like this is the right thing to do. Like, he's like, it's not just like, oh, it's just this one planet. He's like, there's something going on here where like, this is where, you know, the Imperials had like a stronghold or kind of had a presence on this planet before. Like, I know it's like on the outer rim and barely anyone even knows what this planet is, right? And that's when Kane comes in. She's like, I've heard of this planet, right? She kind of chimes in and she's like, oh, like, yeah, like it's like if you really want to bring them in, like it's better. It's you guys show them like, hey, that's the price for not, you know, joining up, right? And it's kind of like, and he even says like that's a very imperial way of thinking, right?
Yeah.
Calls her out on that. And then like the colonel kind of just like dismisses it. And he's like, oh, like don't treat her that way. Like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of like she's like, you know, being useful or stuff like that. And so but he's kind of like this like low. I like the idea in any show like of the the rogue detective kind of. I like that kind of character, and this is clearly what he's doing. Where he's like he's like, I can take this lane down, or I can go and find out what's, you know. And you go look. It's like I know somebody who is a friend, right? And he has the transponder. He has a little transponder from R5, who apparently is a rebel spy or part of the rebellion. I
guess he was. I don't remember exactly where he ends up in combat.
We have this moment where he's like, oh, somebody in your group is like, and it's like, oh, like what's the moment going to be? And I'm like, I haven't seen Rebels, but some people were like, oh, is this like where Sabine shows up? Some people thought that. I haven't seen Rebels, so I don't really know how that works. But you just see R5 just roll out. It's like, oh, duh, that's right. He was on the ship with Din. So like that's how he tracked him down and everything. So it's like, but yeah, so he goes to Din. It's like, you know, hey, I know he's your, like, I'm not here to cause any trouble. And like kind of tell him like, you know, hey, we don't like you guys, like hit turn back around, leave his plan before we kill you. And then Din's like, hold on, let's hold it. You know, let's hear him out. He explains, you know, what's going on. He's like, I know he's a friend of yours. And he's like, why is the New Republic helping? And he's like, well, like, you know, I tried to get them to help. They don't want to. And he's like, it's like, all right. And then of course, we get to the moment you're talking about, right? The powwow. We're like, hey, like we know, like the last time you guys saw this guy, you were trying to kill him. You were defending me and, you know, Grogu, but like, we patched things up since then, and like, hey, if we take it back, he's promised us he's promised me attractive land. Like, you know, there's something many here for us. We kind of owe it. Like, do me this favor, and then, you know, you said like Paz Vizsla comes in, does the really cool kind of usurping expectations thing, right? There's that
Subverting.
that that phrase with Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
And so comes in, they go back to Navarro. We have this really cool that really dope like dropship moment where you just see all the Mandalorians just pour out at the bottom, like as the doors open, and they kind of just like skydive and then just like shoot off, and it's like very like Call of Duty style, where they land, they're like communicating hand signals, like it was such a cool like infiltration kind of thing. Such a cool moment. But Aaron, I've been talking too long, so please.
Yeah, no, you set me up quite nicely for I want to take it, in that when you have an enclave of actively training Mandalorians, it's just, you got to get them out onto the field. And that's what this episode does very effectively. And so watching them all drop in is just such a good catharsis to knowing, okay, time to watch them just mow down some pirates.
Yes.
I love the multifaceted plan that they've got. They've got Mando on the N1, and he's flying to divert the
that's right,
the scab fighters, and then you've got Bo-Katan dropping in troops and making the bombing run on the awesome ship design that pirate captain is helming. And so we're just watching the battle unfold on all these different fronts, and it's so well edited, and it's so dynamic how we're jumping between all of them. They just keep up the pace really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And then getting to see the armorer take out that anti-infantry gun.
It reminded me of the way she just shows up behind them with the hammer. It kind of reminded me of, you've probably seen Scarface before, I'm sure you have. But the guy who shows up for Tony Montana with the shotgun from behind, where he's just slowly making his way across the balcony to like where he is. It kind of had that feel where she's like showing up, and then like she doesn't have weapons. She doesn't have like blasters. She just has her tool. That's her thing. And she's just like choking and knocking these guys out. I'm like, oh, like this is such a cool moment for the armor, because I didn't expect her to like actually show up for that. I thought she's like, clearly she's like not a battlefield like personnel kind of thing. So like I thought that was really really neat how she shows up and just like ding ding ding.
It's just full of great moments like that. And then obviously Vizsla, when he drops down onto the battlefield, as though you're like deploying a hero unit in Battlefront, and then he was just mowing people down with his chain gun as the other Mandalorians being like surrounded in the street. Mm-hmm. It's all just really well executed action with a quite compelling payoff of the Mandalorians essentially now having this big tract of land to develop. Now, I mean, we're kind of already immediately setting up the idea that we're going to leave Navarro to go to Mandalore.
It's going to be a while, right? Because Bo-Katan has to go on her recruiting mission first.
Right. Bo-Katan has to go, presumably, confront the Mythosaur, and then also because she walks two different worlds. She walks in both different worlds. She needs to go find all the other Mandalorians and bring them together. But I do hope that we get just some time where we're watching the Mandalorians like hoe a field or something. I love the idea of seeing them set up like a open world outpost for themselves on Navarro.
Sure. Yeah, because they talk about how they'll be able to be out in the sunlight again, right? Not hiding in caves or in sewers or whatever, right? They'll be able to like actually like occupy like land properly.
Yeah, and I just think that's a wicked cool idea. So I hope that develops somewhat. And I was glad to see, even though it took a number of episodes, I was glad to see the Navarro stuff pay off, because when we recorded last time, that's one of the things I was really concerned about, in that Navarro would be just sort of like this element that we don't actually spend a lot of time with.
Yeah.
But we came back for its liberation, and now hopefully we'll sort of be here to watch it be rebuilt too.
Yeah, because it felt back like in episode 1, it was kind of a throw line where Grief Karga tells him like, oh, like, hey, I'll give you a tract of land, you can like settle down, and Mando's like, like that's not really for me, but like, okay, he remembered that though. Yeah. So like here you go, here's like the the reward and stuff. So that's like a fun side quest, not looking for a droid, looking for parts of a droid to rebuild, right? That was kind of like it sounds like we're getting towards something, right? Because later on we have the he's exploring I forgot the guy's name already. The X-wing pilot, Carson Teva. He goes into space. On his way back, he comes across a dilapidated Imperial shuttle I guess the New Republic now uses these shuttles. Makes sense, right? And it's like torn open apart. The hole's open. He has this cool like, little sensor that leaves the droid, goes in with a little camera, scans kind of like a Batman detective mode kind of thing, right? Scans the area. There's a chunk of Beskar mysteriously sticking out. What could that mean? Mandalorians were somehow involved in the sabotaging and hijacking of Moff Gideon. I really don't want to see Gideon again. I feel like we've had him for 2 seasons as a villain. Like we don't need to retread the same ground. I'm hoping that maybe whoever did kidnap Gideon, whether it was Mandalorians or somebody else, that maybe that's like part of a overall sinister overarching plot, and it's not just Gideon breaking himself out of prison or whatever. But I guess we have 4 more episodes to find out. So
My hope is that it was Jango Fett who did it, and we learned that Jango Fett, in sort of a dirge-like fashion, reconnected his head to his body and has come back to life to rescue Moff Gideon. That's what I hope, personally.
he's just like immortal. What? Imagine if it was. It'd be cool though. I do want to see Dirge in live action, maybe one day. But
yeah, so like Black Chrysanthemum, who we see in Book of Boba Fett, was obviously a comics character, and Dirge was active in what was that comics run? War of the Bounty Hunters, I believe it was called.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's possible. I mean, that's the sort of live action character adaptation I love to see, because it's fun seeing Zeb because I love Rebels, but also I've spent so much time with Zeb that seeing him in live action is cool, but it's not the same as seeing Dirge, because
walking T-1000 Terminator guy.
Because all we've seen of Dirge in live action, well, I'm sorry, not in live action, but in just sort of cinema in general, if you'll extend the definition of cinema to show
miniseries, yeah.
And we talk about the Tartakovsky Clone Wars series, but frankly, if he is going to show up anywhere, just if we get another season of Obi-Wan, which I'm not sure we will, but if we were to, Dirge Obi-Wan rematch, I mean, that's just sort of like random.
Is this just the thing that Obi-Wan does? He just rematches all his classic villains again one more time.
it's like that's a sort of random pandery Star Wars fan service that I would like.
Kills Darth Maul again, fights Anakin again. Now he's gonna kill Dirge one more time just to be sure.
He can't. If he goes after Darth Maul, that is Rebels erasure, and I won't stand for it. But Dirge is fine. The Tartakovsky show's not even in canon. He didn't even kill him because Dirge is like, oh, well, no, he does properly kill Dirge.
That was because son.
Yeah,
or a son. Yeah.
He goes like, oh, boo, 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 oh, and explodes and all kinds of. But does he reform in the?
He reforms. He reforms
again, though, because he kills him. Then he.
Are you talking about when he swallows him and then blows him up from the inside?
Yeah.
Yeah, he reforms. You see, like it's like as he leaves, you see like the parts like coming together again. He properly dies in one of the old Dark Horse Star Wars comics. Where I think Anakin like launches him into a star or something like that.
That's
like,
badass.
That's like you don't come back from that. Like that's it.
No.
But then again, those comics aren't canon anymore. So that's why he shows up now in the canon comics run now. So
yeah, what you come back from is a universe-wide retcon. That's what brings you back to life.
I mean, they did that with Asajj, right? I think doesn't she also die in the miniseries? In the Anakin like kills her on Yavin, right? In the rain, remember?
Does he?
He kills her. Yeah, she gets flung and crushed by like rocks or something like that.
Right. But does that leave enough of a window for her to be alive? Maybe, I don't know. We gotta stop talking about Gennady Tartakovsky's programming. But frankly,
we have an episode about that.
Yeah, frankly, Andrew, I think we're about done talking about this batch of Mando too. Do you have anything else you want to remark about these three episodes?
Not really. I think we kind of said it all. I mean, yeah, Armor comes in, does the thing, tells her to take off her helmet, right? And she's like, do you respect my station? She's like, yeah. She's like, okay, then take off your helmet, right? And then she kind of gives her the talk, like, hey, like you've seen the mythosaur, like clearly you're the one we've been waiting for to, reunite all the clans, all the Mandalorians. Sends her on this another like main quest kind of thing. But now, so I'm wondering now, like, is Mando just gonna accompany her on this, or is she gonna be like doing this like in the background of some shows? Clearly, they're setting up the Ahsoka stuff, right? With the people from Rebels. We already saw the space whales. We saw Zeb. It's only a matter. If you look at Rogue One, we've seen the Chopper. They're clearly setting up like the connections, bridging the connections, right? I think to the Rebels crew for the Ahsoka, which I think is the next Disney Plus series, right? That's the next one in line.
Yes,
live action, right?
Yeah, this fall.
Because the other one just started production, right? The not Disciple, was it called Disciple? The
Acolyte.
I knew it was some religious. Yeah, there you go. That's just starting production. So I think, and I don't think we're getting another. I don't think we're getting another Book of Boba Fett, right? I don't remember. So
no.
So clearly Ahsoka's the next one in the queue line of Star Wars Disney Plus stuff. So,
but before then, Visions is back, baby.
Oh, that's right.
1 more month till Visions. Can't fucking wait for Visions.
Are we already a month away from that?
Let me double check that. As I made that
I feel like there's been no promotion for that whatsoever.
I'm pretty sure that Visions is May.
Unless they do something this coming weekend for Celebration, maybe.
I think they probably will.
Oh, okay.
A trailer for it. Yeah, premieres May 4th. That's what I thought.
How apt.
1 month until Visions. No matter what happens in Mando or doesn't happen, I get more Visions.
I'm glad you're excited about that. I'm not. Yeah. I'm kind of excited. I'm kind of sad it's not anime anymore, but I'm just excited to get more Star Wars. Just Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then we have Celebration this weekend, which will be super interesting. I can't wait to see what they announce for that.
We'll definitely do, and people will have seen it by the time they see this. We'll do a video about Celebration for sure.
It's already happened at this point.
Yeah, and we saw all kinds of cool stuff. We saw
episode 10.
It's episode 10. We saw Galen Malik in live action. We saw a High Republic show trailer. We saw
imagine we got that Glup Shido miniseries.
Hey, well, I believe we got High Republic people in Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and we're going to be reviewing that game if you get it right away. I have a feeling that you will.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very excited. I'm hearing really, really great stuff.
The previews are so good.
My biggest concern, Abram, was like, I don't want this game to feel empty. And a lot of the reviews are saying like this world feels very populated. I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, there's like a core challenge. You can go back to an upgrade and get side quests in, and there's like, and you can even like you can do farming and all kinds of stuff. And
I didn't see that farming.
And there's like,
I saw you can get a beard.
You can get it. Yeah, there's deep character customization finally, and deep lightsaber customization, and different battle styles and combos with the blaster, like you're playing Jedi Knight. It's gonna be so good. I can't wait. But that's enough of that. That's enough of this version of Andrew and Abram are about to cease to exist, and a new version will confront you with thoughts on episodes of Mandalorian we haven't seen. In 3, 2, 1, now. I'm back, and there's Andrew. We've returned from what was the name of that place that Bo-Katan and Din were in on Mandalore? They go to get the water from, he falls down.
Living Waters?
Yes, the Living Waters. Yeah. We have ascended from the Living Waters. They're very dry because neither of us are very wet at the moment. But we're back to talk about the end of Mando season 3. We're doing 6, 7, and 8. And I don't know, Andrew. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That was my expression too at the end. I was just like, okay. All right.
Let's just talk about 6, and I think we can get into 7 and 8 as a unit, because those 8 I actually because when you start on Disney Plus, you can skip I always skip the recap, and then I skip the intro. Mm-hmm. But episode 8 starts like that. So I'm like, I must have.
I had to rewind.
Yeah. I rewinded too.
I missed a minute, and I'm like, "Oh no, that's how we start."
Yeah,
okay. I did the same thing too. We just see Bo-Katan coming in, and I'm like, "Oh, I clearly missed a chunk." And I go back like the 10 seconds back, and it's just the Star Wars logo, and I'm like, "Oh no, that was it."
Yeah, but episode 6 is not that. Episode 6 is yet another digression, and kind of frankly, Andrew, a more interesting one than I expected, because episode 6 is the one that got caught up in the Twitter discourse, you could call it, because Jack Black and Lizzo are both featured. Now, I find the nature of the celebrity cameo in Star Wars to be a little bit strange.
Yeah.
Usually they're a lot more subtle. Usually it's like Daniel Craig in Force Awakens, where he's in armor, you wouldn't know it's him, or a lot of voice stuff. But this is just Jack Black and Lizzo. And frankly, I don't really care. I thought they were totally fine.
Yeah.
And the episode also doesn't focus on them very much. We're really sort of more caught up in this plot about
basically.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. We arrive to go speak to Axe and the other members of the Watch, and then Jack Black and Lizzo are like, "You can't do that until you do our quest." You're exactly right, Andrew. And the quest is interesting. I think that, and this is something that was brought to my attention on Twitter that I really agree with more in hindsight. There's a really weird disparity between how episode 6 treats droids and how episode 7 treats droids. With episode 6 being really concerned about sort of droids' rights, I suppose you could say.
Yeah.
And episode 7 having Grogu climb into the hollowed out body of a dead IG-11, which is made really weird when you think about it in contrast to what the last episode was just saying about like the sentience of droids and how they need to be like respected more, and they have their own issues, and Din is like prejudiced against them. It's so weird. It's really weird, you know?
It is weird just because I had a similar thought. Like in the last week, I've no doubt seen in the Discord, I've been binge watching all the animated stuff. I finished Rebels. I caught up to Bad Batch. I finished Bad Batch 2. And like just minor spoilers, like Bad Batch kind of does the same thing, but for clones, where it kind of starts to investigate clone rights in a way.
Yeah.
And so seeing this about like droid rights and like all these like it's very odd, just the way like Star Wars starts the conversation and then doesn't really do much to expand on it. Actually, sometimes they kind of just go backwards, I feel, or they kind of just like they'll open up topics and then just not do anything with it really. And that's kind of, I think that's true, right? Because we go to like obviously we have like this kind of Detroit Become Human / Blade Runner, whatever, iRobot situation, right? With all these like basically they reprogrammed all these like battle droids from the Clone Wars to basically just kind of run and just do like just work, right? Just kind of do menial tasks for people on this planet, right? But then you find like this like little pub, this little bar where all the droids are for some reason just more I've just never understood how this works in Star Wars, but like they're programmed, but they also sometimes have like personalities, and sometimes they are like sentient in a way, and it's just
they're more reflective, like they're more aware of what they are.
Yeah, it's just weird though, because like you'll see some droids where like, okay, for example, I think of like the, what are they called, the like the super battle droids, the very like gray Stark, the very like chunky upper body, like thin lower body ones. Like they're very serious, but then you have like your slapstick comedy regular battle droids, and then you have like your serious C-3POs and your like trollish choppers, and like it seems it's like really weird to me that they all have like a lot of personalities, but then like in a lot of the characters kind of just treat them as like property and stuff, and it's just like, I don't know, like, are the droids sentient in Star Wars or are they not? And I just like, this is the first time watching episode 6 of Mandalorian, and it's like have we ever like tackled this before? Because I feel like it's still kind of unresolved at the end.
Yeah,
I don't know, it's just really weird. I never really thought about it much until this episode, and then we find out what's going on with them, right? Kind of just like they have like this weird programming, like some kind of like, not a virus, but it's basically a virus. It's just very, very tiny, very, very nano machine, very Metal Gear all of a sudden. And I don't know, it's a cool episode. I like the premise of like what's causing all these things to happen. Like we have that really cool cameo from Christopher Lloyd, who I think is like a much more interesting cameo than Jack Black and Lizzo.
Yes.
Just like, so basically just themselves, right? And Christopher Lloyd's like playing more of this kind of wacky, like separatist sympathizer, you know, Count Dooku was right kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like it's a very wacky episode, but I enjoy it. I thought it was very fun. But yeah, it's weird how they start these conversations and they kind of just don't go anywhere with them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you in large part with the episode. I I love the ideas of this like rogue separatist who's been undercover for so long, and his plot to like in some way strike out in in remembrance of the separatists or something. It's a little unclear what his larger plot is, but
Yeah.
nonetheless it's a really interesting idea. And you recently, I mean, you've watched all of Rebels, but you were talking to Discord recently about the episode wherein we find the decommissioned battle droids, and
Oh yeah.
um, we have that whole moment that unfolds there. And I just think it's cool to wonder what happened to all these droids, because the war just sort of ended, and there are just a shit ton of droids just out and about, and kind of seeing where they ended up, seeing how some have been, repurposed by the Ugnaughts to do manual labor, and then some are in this bar. And I love the idea of a droids only bar, actually. It's also sort of a fun, it's a fun inversion on the
Yeah.
cantina.
We don't
Because
serve their kind. Yeah, it's the
yeah,
opposite. Yeah.
I think that's cool. I think it's good ideas, but ultimately, especially when episode 7 and 8 make it obvious that none of that mattered at all. It's hard for me to feel a whole hell of a lot more with this episode other than it was fine. But do you want to say anything else about episode 6? Because I feel like I really just want to get into 7 and 8.
I knew 7 and 8 were going to dominate the conversation, but yeah, before we move on to 7 and 8, I like the I was like, what will be the purpose of droids drinking? And like, they actually answered. They have actually a neat answer for that. Where like they're basically drinking like lubricants. What it is lubricants. They also carry like patch notes or something like that. They carry like patch notes, and like they do things. They do actually do things to like the droid like machines, to the body. It's not like I'm just like are they drinking oil? Like it's not fuel, right? But like I like how they actually address that, because I was like, once they introduced the droid bar concept, I'm like, what? Like what's the point of that? But then they quickly answered that, and I'm like, oh, like okay, yeah, that's kind of neat. That's a good answer for the question that you kind of opened up, because like Star Wars does that weird thing sometimes where like I said, they'll open up questions and then not answer them, and you're kind of just left like why did we go down that tangent kind of thing.
Yeah.
And but yeah, Christopher Lloyd, great. I like his cameo. And,
yeah, me too.
Lizzo and Jack Black, they're all right. They're just too much. They're just a little too I don't know. They're too much themselves, I guess you could say.
It's too much of a cameo. I mean, Christopher Lloyd is just playing a character, and it feels like the fact that they are Jack Black and Lizzo is more of the conceit than it is with Christopher Lloyd.
And especially in proximity to the Super Mario Brothers movie, and just thinking Jack Black and like,
sure,
I don't know. It was just really jarring. And I'm like, okay, he's kind of just being like his boisterous, kind of loud self. And
yeah.
Like, okay. All right.
They do a fine enough job. It's just sort of a head scratching inclusion, I think.
Yeah.
But
then we have anyway. Oh, and then we finish at the end with Bo-Katan having that fight with Axe Wolves.
And I do like that fight.
It is cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I like the use. I think we're gonna get into it. I like the combination of using like range combat and then up close combat, but using the jetpack for like as offensive and like maneuver, like zipping around, and like we'll get into that way more into the other ones. But I like the way Mando's like use their full arsenal to like to the max. So.
Yeah, and I don't remember if we see it properly in episode 7 or if it's at the end of 6. But the Mando flagship with their insignia painted across the bottom is so fucking cool.
It's in 7. Yeah,
it's in 7.
Yeah, we see it from underneath when they show up in 7.
Yeah,
it looks really dope.
I love. That's awesome. That's like, awesome.
There's no mistaking that's an Imperial, because that's when Grief Karga comes out on his balcony and like, oh, like we're being. He looks up and you see the big. He's like, oh, like nah, like don't worry, we're good. It's good.
Yeah. So on that note, 7 and 8 are really it's basically episode 7 part 1 and episode 7 part 2, as we were saying, because they just flow right into each other. And I want to talk about them on sort of a higher level first, and we can get into the specifics. I think that episode 7 is exceptional, and I think it's one of the best episodes of the entire show.
For sure. Yeah.
And I also liked episode 8, but my issue is that in a vacuum, episode 8 is pretty cool. But as the end cap to the series, all I can really think about is everything that's happened up until this point that didn't actually matter at all.
Yeah.
So the convert episode is one that really sticks out in my mind.
Is that episode 3 or?
It's the one on Coruscant.
Okay, 3. Yeah.
Yes.
Which really didn't go anywhere in the end.
Yeah, and this is sort of my frustration because there are so many ideas across the show that either don't go anywhere or are introduced so quickly that you don't really have time to sit with them. Like, Moff Gideon has built an army of Force-sensitive clones, and it's basically relegated to a dialogue aside. And episode 7 is called The Spies. There's either no spy or they decide not to tell us who the spy is. We spend a whole episode of these people on Coruscant whose impact on the narrative, frankly, doesn't matter. It frustrates me because episode 7 and 8 have so many great ideas, but they just don't come to fruition, and they also highlight all of the threads from the earlier episodes that just had no significance moving forward. It really feels like you can whittle down The Mandalorian season 3 to like 4 actually critical episodes, because even the Navarro stuff, which I think is really great, as we talked about in the previous installments of our review here, it didn't matter because as soon as the Mandalorians were given land on Navarro, they immediately left for Mandalore. Season 3 has so many fantastic subplots, but the result of having all these fantastic subplots is that the main plot got relegated to like the very end of the season.
Yeah.
And that's what's disappointing to me. It's just that if this had been like Andor was a 12 episode season, then I think we could have really developed Moff Gideon more and brought back these ideas from before and actually learned who the spy is and spent more time on Navarro. But with 8 episodes, I felt like we were doing way more than that in terms of plot.
Yeah, it does. It feels like, and I don't know about that. I mean, a lot of people have similar complaints about Netflix shows, Netflix original shows, where like they hold like really strictly to, I think it's like an 8 or 9 episode system of like you have to do these, and like a lot of those Netflix shows really only need maybe 2 episodes less to be able to tell like a structured story. And you'll see that, like, having watched a lot of Netflix originals and a lot of people listening to people watch them, a common complaint is like Netflix always does the thing where like you can feel like they're meddling by throwing in an extra 1 or 2 episodes just to pad out the timing. Mm-hmm. And that's I do feel that with Mando. I think I'll probably stretch maybe to 5 episodes I think are relevant to the plot, which is just episodes 1, 2, 4, 7, 8. Kind of in a way. Yeah. And because we have the stuff with Paz Vizsla, I think it's kind of necessary to kind of like for his sacrifice to feel like something like we kind of see like, oh, like that's his son. We went to rescue his son. I think that kind of helps a little bit to kind of flesh out who the Mandalorians are, I think. And also Bo-Katan's like, acceptance into the crew and stuff like that. So, yeah. But episode 3, the Coruscant one, which I did enjoy. In the end, I was like, okay, we're gonna have some long-term payoff, and we do see what's her name, Kane, at the start of episode 7, where she's contacting Moff Gideon through the little probe droid. Yeah, but it's just a very, very fast scene, very quickly. That's it. Kind of inconsequential. I feel like she was just thrown in there just because, to be like, oh, like just to establish that she is like on the Empire side, like still doing stuff for the Imperial Remnant or whatever. But what happens at that meeting, like we didn't really need it other than as a segue into him going to talk to the Shadow Council or whatever they're called, which, I'll talk about that when we get there, but or maybe now, because that's the start of episode 7, isn't it? Yeah. So we get introduced to Hux's dad, which I think is really cool, played by like the real actor's brother, his real life brother. Oh, cool. I didn't know that part. It's another Gleason, I guess. Domhnall Gleeson is the Hux we know, but his brother, his real life brother, plays his father in that little like hologram projection. Brendan Gleeson. Yeah, another Gleason. Yeah, and I don't remember his first name. That's why, but no, it's not Brendan Gleeson. But they introduce a character who I popped off because as someone who's like huge into the EU, Pelion, who is a massive central figure in the old EU before he got like erased and everything. Like I was like that guy kind of looks like, I'm like Pelion. I'm like, nah, that's not him though. Like, he's not canon. And then when Gideon calls him by his name, I'm like like, oh, that's so cool. Because if you don't know anything about like the extended universe, like Pelion is like the major after Thrawn, gets knocked out, gets taken out and stuff. He's basically inherits the Empire after Thrawn. He's like, he essentially makes the Empire a dominant force again. And like, I'm going to nerd out a little bit. He essentially establishes his position as the head of the Empire to the point where he actually signs like an armistice with the New Republic, where it's like we're not going to fight with you guys anymore, but we're not ceding any more territory. Like, we're just going to be this independent government. And then like that New Republic's okay, like we don't want to fight anymore. So like in the EU, like they have these two coexisting governments. They basically just take up the same galaxy, just on different like division parts and stuff. So when I saw like he was in there, I was like, oh, like I was like, yes, like they're canonizing more like EU elements. So I was very happy. And then because I just caught up to this part in Rebels, like he is also mentioned in Rebels, but like at the very, 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 very end briefly. So it was cool to see those two things kind of coincide within the same week for myself. So I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, we have like the Shadow Council, right? We have the energy doors from Phantom Menace leading down this like hallway.
Yeah.
And he's kind of just like getting clearance, like they're opening and closing as he's going through, like kind of just like, so there's never like a clear break between all of them at once. Get to the Shadow Council. They're talking about you have like these like warring, like these warlords or these different Imperial remnants who are kind of just like they're very clearly like talking to each other, right? They're like unified in a way. We get a name drop of Thrawn, who apparently hasn't made an appearance to this council, but he is there somewhere in the background somewhere, right? And they're kind of just talking about, hey, like Gideon says, like, hey, we always hear about Thrawn, but we never see him at these meetings. Like, he's like, I think we should have a leader who is more involved, like hands-on. And we have that conversation with Hux and talking about resources. They talk about Project Necro something, Mancer, and like all this other stuff, which like they're very much doing the thing where like this is going to connect to like, the sequel trilogy. Like we're laying down the connections. Like you might not see them quite there, but we are like the needle that we call it, the thread going from now to there is very much present. It's just not so clear. So, and of course with all the clone stuff, and when we get to Rise of Skywalker, right, all the vats, all the tubes and everything, like okay, we're getting there. It's just gonna take some time, but there is some kind of plan, a loose plan of sorts to connect these threads. So Abram, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I really liked this scene. I thought the cold open was quite excellent, because we've always seen these Imperial remnants as this sort of like isolated force. You as we find them at the beginning of Mandalorian, you open up a door and they're just like a bunch of dirty stormtroopers, like an old Imperial officer in a room. Or you encounter a couple TIEs out in space. But that's kind of what we've seen. But now we know that there's a council and there's something brewing, and I like that idea quite a bit. And as you're right, it's connecting us into the sequel trilogy, but I think more eminently, it's also connecting us into Ahsoka, which I assume is going to be running with these ideas quite heavily. And I do like that. I almost feel like what they're setting up is more interesting than what actually happens in the last two episodes of Mando, which is never really a great position to be in. But as someone who's just concerned about the overarching lore and galaxy, I'm quite excited for where the story is going to go. So I find that sequence to be very effective. Also because it brings back my boys from Last Jedi. We get some Praetorian guards in almost, I guess, what we can now refer to as like Phase 1 Praetorian guard armor.
They have everything except the helmets down.
Yeah.
Like we're slowly gonna get to the point where like you just can't see anymore, right? They have like the little T-shaped visor thing going on, as compared to like the Imperial Guard from Return of the Jedi, where like I think they have much more open like little viewports on their helmets. Like it's like over time it's getting smaller for some reason until it's eventually just a slate of red.
Have they said, I'm sure they have, that there's a continuation from that guard to this one?
It's pretty much just visually
It's-
implied.
Yeah, because I
They put out a poster. I think after the episode 7 came out last week, they put out a poster, and I think the official Star Wars account referred to them as the Praetorian Guard.
okay, cool.
So, I mean, they were just called. I think they were just called like the Emperor or the Imperial Guard, like in Return of the Jedi. I think they were just
Yeah.
called the Imperial Guard, or they just refer to as Palpatine's like guards, basically. So I think it's Praetorian. Basically, it comes the same thing from like Caesar from like the Roman Empire. Right, that was just like his close guard. So it's the exact same thing. Maybe the title's different, but it serves the same purpose.
Because I really like the progression of armor from the blue, like crest, like helmet crested Senate guards through to the
from
red.
prequels, yeah.
Through into this. I think it's just on a large level some of the coolest armor design in the entire galaxy.
It's very flush. I like the very flush. Yeah.
And we get to see them, at the end of that episode, take down Vizsla, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
We decide, as I said, very quickly to gather up everyone in Navarro, and we're headed out to Mandalore.
Yeah, we have like this sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go for it.
We have like this bonfire kind of meeting of the minds between our two like Mandalorian sects.
Yeah.
Where it kind of just like they just show up. It's like a very weird it's like part tense, part awkward. Everyone's kind of just milling around, just standing around. And then we get I forget what the different groups are called, but Bo-Katan's group.
The Watch.
Are they the Watch? Okay. And then the other ones are the what? What are they called?
The Weighers.
The way that doesn't sound right, but we're gonna go with that. All right, so like the Watch comes in, they take off their helmets. The way Weighers kind of just look at them like oh like that's not what we like. I'm like no like we don't do that here kind of thing, right? But like it's like an awkward like stance, and it's like okay, like we need to make this party, we need to make this vanguard or like advanced party to go scout out Mandalore. Who wants to come? Both sides, no one really wants to come until eventually I think Din finally kind of breaks the stalemate or the silence, says, all right, I'll go. And then like Bo-Katan and the armor. And then they okay, cool. We can start to get cooperation from both sides. We basically come together and then we head off to Mandalore.
What did you think, by the way, Andrew, of sort of the prevailing theory going around the armor was the spy?
That didn't make sense to me. And I'll tell you why it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Because it's basically the armorer's idea. She instills the idea in Bo-Katan like to go back to Mandalore. And if she was, because I know people were talking about, oh, she's like in cahoots with the Empire, but like they clearly make during that Shadow Council, like they don't, like Gideon is clearly confused. He's like, wait, he's like, no, like, these two factions, like they don't get along.
Right.
He's like, why? He's like, no, they don't work together. And he's like, oh, if they are going to Mandalore, then that's going to be an issue for our plans. And I'm like, if the armor was in on it, why would she create the issue that's going to be, or create the solution what's going to be an issue for the Empire? Like that didn't really. I know people were talking about because of the horns of her helmet, very similar to Gideon's armor, who also has like the horns, and how she kind of bails right when the action's about to start. And I'm like, I can see why people thought like and because you never see her face of like all the major Mando characters. She's like the one aside from Paz Vizsla who doesn't show her face. So like people were thinking like she's just like a suspicious character. But I would listen to like the theories, but I'm like, oh, like the math isn't mathing here. Like it doesn't make sense. Why would she introduce the conflict that would go against the people she's supposedly working for?
Yeah, no, I agree. For me, it just even went to a higher level thing of like, since the beginning, maybe no character has been more devoted to the Mandalorian creed than the armorer.
She's playing like the long game for seasons or something. Like, I don't see it either. Yeah,
it would have felt really, frankly, unearned to me if she was the spy, because she's been built up to be the exact opposite of that throughout literally the entire show. So I was glad that, again, I'm not glad that there was no spy, because that just seems like we ran out of time, but I'm glad that the armorer was not the spy. How about
I assumed by the title spies, I thought it had to do with Kane, like in the beginning of the episode. I thought maybe she was a spy, like because she's kind of playing the Republic, playing the goody two shoes on Reformed, and then like supplying Gideon with info on the side. I thought she was the spy.
I suppose so, but
then she's such a small part of the episode, it would be weird to name the whole episode after.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But the point is, we go to Mandalore. And I love the idea of these few straggling surviving Mandalorians who have this huge like it's like a boat it's like a skiff.
Yeah, it's like a
It's
raft boat thing.
yeah. It's super cool. It reminds me in part of like the retrofitted walker that and his friends are in Rex and Wolf are in
Oh,
Rebels.
yeah.
I just love the idea of these just couple Mandalorians surviving this crazy harsh environment in this big ship and them like being the navigators for the party to go find the Great Forge. I think that's just such a cool idea.
And then one of them is the character actor who plays I remember him as Warlock from Top Gun Maverick,
Yeah.
the dude with the grizzled gray hair. I'm like, oh, that's. I know I've seen him with other stuff, but I see him. I think of Top Gun Maverick, so I'm like, oh, like he's here. He has a very distinctive, deep voice too. So like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's cool. And then did you notice one of the other guy who's it's like a lanky guy with him, and I think somebody pointed out that he's like one of the characters from Breaking Bad. I don't remember which one, but he has a Generation 2 droid battle as one of his like pauldrons as his shoulder. Did you catch that?
No, I missed that.
He has like, you know how like the very gray like super battle droid helmet, it's like
Yeah.
it's like recessed, right, kind of like really into the bard. He has the head of that as like one of his like shoulder pauldrons for his armor, and I'm like, that's cool. I love that. That's a really cool detail. But yeah, they have like this weird like little raft skiff. They just shoot out of the ship, come down, and it's like, oh man, are they good Mandalorians? Are they bad Mandalorians? And they just basically like straight out like ask like who are you? And then she's like, and then Bo-Katan introduces herself and like, are you Bo-Katan Kryze? Like, yep. And like they finally like do the bow thing, like, oh, okay, cool, we're in a good place here. They like do the bow, they're like, hey, like we've been waiting for you to come back. We never like wandered or like betrayed our like post, basically. And it's just a really feel good kind of like, all right, so like it's not like because when they talk about like restoring Mandalore, and it's like we have like maybe I don't know 50 guys, 50 members of each side with between the Watch and the Wayers. I can't get over that. And then like, oh no, like there's way more Mandalorians who are just not just scattered throughout the universe, but like they're also like here, kind of just like laying low, basically, just waiting for the right time. So like okay, it seems way more believable now that we're gonna retake and terraform this massive planet now that there's way more different people involved. And of course, like, if they take it back, they're gonna attract more Mandalorians off-world to come back and stuff. I'm like, okay, like I like how we're kind of fleshing out it's not just these two factions in the whole galaxy. They're like, no, there's like so many more Mandalorians who are just like waiting for the right time. So I was like, okay, like that's cool.
Yeah, I agree, and I like the sort of things we learn about Mandalore as a planet here. It's going to age a little bit, but I love this lush underground cave they come into. I love the huge creature that attacks their ship. I think there's so much, yeah. It's awesome. I think everything we learn about the planet is great. I will say, I have a hard time buying the idea that Moff Gideon was setting up this entire thing and nobody knew about it.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say that you had a hard time that they set up this base and like this creature didn't just destroy it. Because that's what I was thinking. I'm like,
sure,
if this thing's coming out of the ground, like it would have ran into them or something. But like, well, wasn't that part of like the whole curse? Why they promoted the curse of Mandalore? They're like, hey, it's toxic. Like, don't go there. Like, you can't breathe. The atmosphere is not. Remember, that was the whole thing where like,
right?
It's just haunted. It's just you just don't go there. And people like, I don't know. I think even in a galaxy far, far away, I think people could be superstitious and just like, I mean, didn't Bo-Katan, she believed that like, oh, like, oh no, like that place is cursed. Like, we're not trying to go back there. Right. So I could see the Empire maybe propagating or promoting that rumor to just keep people away. I mean, we kind of do that with Area 51 in real life.
Sure.
Where it's like, like just like, well, but then again, people try to raid it a couple years ago. But I could see in a galaxy this vast that you can just cordon off a portion of an abandoned planet and just kind of do a Black Ops site kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I guess it's just like if there's Mandalorians who are on this like still on the planet.
Oh,
you'd think that they would go.
You would see the coming and goings of ships and stuff. Yeah, that's a good point. You're right.
We'd go to the you'd be like, hey, we should go check out our forge, and be like, oh shit, what are all of those stormtroopers doing over there?
All these Beskar laden stormtrooper Imperials or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but At a certain point, that's very nitpicky because I do really like the idea that Moff Gideon is rebuilding his base and building his clone army on Mandalore. That's pretty badass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he has like the whole talk about too, where like he's like, I'm taking like the best of all the major cultures, right? He's like, I'm taking like the Force from the Jedi, like the Beskar from the Mandalorians. He says something else. I forgot. There's like a third like part of that Trinity or something, but like how he essentially just trying to create the ultimate super soldier in a way, and just making a fleet or an army of them. I kind of thought it was a little like I think you kind of talked about this earlier, but I thought it was kind of silly how just Ding just it's so he just walks in and just like smothers them, right? He just pushes a
Yeah.
couple of buttons and they're no longer a threat, and that was it. That kind of felt kind of like anticlimactic in a way, like. And then Gideon comes out like kind of like really it felt weird. Like I feel because Giancarlo is like such a kind of subdued, kind of a very like calm actor. To see him kind of be like genuinely pissed just seems so weird. Like the way he kind of came across, like, oh, like darn you, meddling kids, kind of way. You stumbled, you ruined my plan. Like it just felt like really out of character for who Moff Gideon is. Kind of. I don't know if you kind of picked up on that. It just kind of like. I don't know. He's doing the super villain exposition thing kind of thing, and I'm just kind of like, oh, come on, Star Wars, you're better than this. Well, sometimes you're better than this. I don't know. I kind of just felt silly, I think.
I To the point about Moff Gideon though, I feel like the dialogue for him was a little bit weird.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit like a little bit quippy or something. I can't quite put my finger on it, but the whole we've got to stop meeting like this, Bo-Katan. It's just a strange line. I just feel like the script on a dialogue level and on a larger just like plotting level was not it just wasn't hitting in this season. And I feel like Moff Gideon just really suffers from that and that sort of his plot in the way he how he holds himself and how he's conversing with Mando and Bo-Katan is just not it doesn't make him feel that imposing. It makes it feel like he just showed up. He was just back all of a sudden. Now he's got this huge plan that like the show doesn't have time for. And I just found that disappointing because I do think that Moff Gideon is a strong character, but you bring Darth Maul into you bring him back into Clone Wars, you bring him back into Rebels. Obviously, those shows spent a lot of time with him, but just the sight of Darth Maul back means something.
Yeah.
I don't really necessarily think that's necessarily true of Moff Gideon. I think you need to really spend a little bit more time with him. And when he has such interesting ideas and such a nefarious and provocative plan as this, as you're saying, ends up then manifesting Rise of Skywalker in a more significant way. I just wanted to know a little bit more about him. And I didn't want this kind of weird, quippy dialogue out of him. I wanted more time, but obviously the one thing this show does not have is time.
Yeah, I feel like there's a huge discrepancy in terms of who Moff Gideon is at the end of season 2 compared to now when we get to like season 3. Like, you're right, he's a little more quippy. I don't know, maybe he's just like, hey, like I can't be stopped. He just has much more bravado or something. He's just way more overconfident. It could be it. I don't know, but like, yeah, when we leave him with season 2, where he's much more like calculating and kind of like malevolent and more like he has like a plan B for everything. And here it's like he pretty much like he bears all his cards at the beginning and like that's it. That was the plan. Like, oh shoot, like I guess this is where we are now. Like we just had to like duke it out fist to fist kind of thing because like you already. Like he like it's just like I don't know. I think it's almost like arrogance, and maybe I don't think that's the writer's intention. The writer's intention to do that, but it wouldn't be too surprising considering like the whole theme of the Imperials being arrogant throughout the entire franchise, kind of thing, where they kind of just feel like they're always gonna have the upper hand, and then a group of scrappy ne'er-do-wells just comes in, just botches everything for them. And I don't know. Yeah, it is weird. It is very weird. We even talked about that too, about like when in episode, was it 1 or 2, where Mando's like, oh, that's using your head, right? The dropping the statue thing with the like everyone's just way more like battle hardened experience and like oh, we're gonna let loose and kind of just be like I don't know. We've earned this kind of thing. I don't know.
Another example that I was not crazy about is back in episode 6 when Jack Black and Liz's characters are trying to sell Bo-Katan and Mando on the idea of taking on this quest for them. And it's going off on this, Jack Black's doing this whole big thing about how we can't have an armed militia within our borders and everything, which is super cool. And then he's like, and you'd have to go hunt down these droids because they're hurting people and everything. And then, Bo-Katan asks Mando, Din, what do you think? And he's like, you had me at battle droids. And I just don't believe that Mando would say that. And
maybe not the line, but I do think the sentiment is there. Because
yeah.
considering his childhood trauma involving battle droids.
Yeah, it's the idea is there. I just think that sort of the dialogue execution for all of the characters is just a little bit weird. But you wanted to talk about the Imperial troopers that Gideon is. Is the implication that those are clones also?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. Again, the synergy between watching Rebels and this like back to back at the same time is in the final season 4 of Rebels, they go to, it's not Mandalore, but it's a Mandalore affiliated planet, and there are Mandalorians who basically work for the Empire. Right?
Yeah.
You had the whole thing with I think his name was Gar Saxon. I think it's like
yes.
that guy. And like their armor is, if not exactly the same, very reminiscent of the armor we see here, where it's just Mandalorians with white armor, basically just everything's just coated white Imperial style, and like I think like the helmets are slightly different. But I was watching Rebels, I'm like, oh, those like just like the guys like in Episode 7, like they have the jetpacks, they have everything, they have Beskar. It's pretty much the exact same like things beat for beat. Just that I think it's implied that I guess maybe they were stormtroopers before who got like the upgrades. I don't know, but it's essentially I was when they kind of come down on them when they're looking for the forge, and we're having this shootout, and I'm like, oh, like I think that was like the first time where I felt, because they're on equal footing, like, oh, I do kind of feel the stakes here a little bit, especially with Grogu kind of walking around his little IG baby carrier thing, and I'm like what is he doing? Like, get Grogu out of here! Like, there's like shots being exchanged and stuff, and like I felt the tension. I like the design of the suit, and then just how we have them, like I don't know if you want to jump straight to 8, but like how they flank the red energy walls, like the corridor, like it's just a very imposing. It's just a very cool like look design.
I love the design, and you're right. I think it adds this layer of tension to the conflict of, you can't just pop them once and they're done. It's more engaged. They're more of a threat. And watching them clash as they're encircling the Mandalorians, and Paz Vizsla is like the only one that can lay down significant enough fire to really damage them. So it's just this big, crazy mess of Mandalorians and Imperial soldiers on that ridge overlooking this area in the Forge. I thought that was an exceptional sequence. I actually think all of the action in 7-8 is really well done.
It kind of reminds me of if I'm sure you've seen the John Wick films. Once they had like the Kevlar suits, the Kevlar like once everybody has that, okay, it's like a level playing field. Like you're not overpowered, because if everyone's overpowered, then no one's overpowered, kind of thing. Where it's just like basically you're just shooting for the joints and trying to get in there, get the right angle. That's basically what that's what they're all doing. And once they get to the point where, when we get to it at the start of Episode 8, and we have I lost my train of thought, Abram. But I don't know if you're ready to just talk about Episode 8 in general, but just the way how it starts off, where I like how Axe Wolves is just flying through the storm. And he goes into like, I don't know if it's the upper atmosphere or he's in space, but that just looks so cool once you get clear of the clouds, and now he's like in space. I'm like, is he in space, or like can you do that? Like, can you just go up to space and you're like are you self-contained where like you're okay if you go into space? But I don't know. And he just flies right into like the, we call it the little carrier or whatever, and just like lands, starts running, like goes down and delivers it. What's her name? Bo-Katan's like, oh wait, no, we skipped over the very heroic sacrifice.
Yeah.
Pause.
I had that as a great sequence.
Yeah.
I love this idea of him being this enormous berserker who can just take all of this beating, and he's just laying it down with his minigun, and we're watching it overheat to the point of being destroyed, and then he's just barreling through these Imperials. That's great. And it just, it really sucks watching him get killed by the Praetorian guards because we watch him wipe out all these dudes and we think he's fine. And
Oh, it's
then,
brutal. It's brutal.
yeah, the Praetorians come in and his gun is gone. So he just pulls out his knife and the cool little arm shield that the Mandalorians have, and he just gets
That like
murdered.
really dope, like vibrating knife.
Yeah,
I'm trying to do the effect with my hand on the camera, but it's kind of like
Yeah.
that, right? It's like it reminds you of like the vibro swords from like Knights of the Republic kind of thing. It's like the similar thing.
yeah. It's you know, Vizsla is sort of just been like this presence throughout the show, and obviously he is in Book of Boba Fett also. But we don't know him that well. I feel like we know enough about him, and he's enough of a presence for his sacrifice to really be sad, especially the way he goes out when he's so close to getting out of there. That's always when it hurts. It's almost like you've played Halo Reach. It's like the end of Halo Reach when the objective survive, but can't. There's something really heartbreaking with the way that Vizsla goes out, but also quite badass. So
yeah,
respect to him.
I'm thinking just how the way we started off the show, we had like a very antagonistic relationship with Mando.
Yeah,
the whole like he's not part of the Creed, and and then like the whole thing where he has where they fight over the dark saber. If you remember that, really cool. Oh, that's why you were talking about that Book of Boba Fett, right? That's where you have I was like, why are you talking about Book? I'm like, that's right. There's that when they had like that that very long like scaffolding fight or whatever, right? When they're like going hand to hand with the dark saber and all that stuff. Yeah. He has like he's always had like a bone to pick with Mando, right? And then like just this season is where we kind of see him kind of coming around, where like he's like, you know what, like I respect you, kind of thing, right? We finally have that moment to be like, I don't know. I feel like whenever a character has that kind of moment, something's gonna happen to them in a way where like they kind of come around on something. Like I don't know. I've seen like in a lot of media where like someone finally comes around and like something they're not long like when you have like your complete character arc, like something's gonna happen. So, but that really we skipped it in this episode 7, but I just want to talk about it real quickly. When they're playing chess, when he's playing chess with Axe Wolves on the little some kind of version of Mandalorian chess board game, and like the way they're fighting over the rules, and he's like, no, like this is unique. He's like, no, and then like Axe Wolves kind of has that. He's like, oh, like these primitives, like they're just making up the rules as they go, and then that's when he takes out the knife. Yeah, it's almost like, oh shoot, like now it's escalating, right? And I love that move, and like I know it's like a very whiplash because we're talking about this now, but when Axe Wolves does like that booster packed knee to the face thing, just so smooth, so quickly. I love like how kinetically they're fighting, how they're just using their jetpacks as almost like an extension of like they're like fighting. Where like the jetpack is like basically for tackling and like sweeping the leg kind of thing now, where they're like sliding around on the skiff, and everyone's kind of just like we're just watching, like we're not gonna get involved, like this is tense, we're gonna let this play out. And they're just like they're just the hand-to-hand combat, like the whole choreography is so smooth. It's just so cool. And then just Grogu comes in, and then with the little IG droid basically just like, no, like just stops the fight. And I was just like that's how it had to end. That's how it had to end up.
Yeah, and again, there's something very dubious about IG-12 as like this skeleton that Grogu is puppeteering. But I do like the idea of giving Grogu this suit. I do like that. I think that's clever. There's also something strange about how IG-11 is made the Marshal of Navarro when are any of those pieces IG-11s? Because everything that was
the droid of Theseus or something.
I mean, pretty much, because everything that IG-12, was made out of is destroyed by the Praetorians and blown up by the capital ship, Mandalorian capital ship crashing. And the head is not IG-11's head.
Yeah.
So again, it's just very peculiar. But on a conceptual level, I would have loved if IG-12 had been an actual functioning, like sentient droid that Grogu still controlled. That'd be cool. It's almost like it's like having an R2D2 C3PO relationship, but between droid and the little guy who pilots him. I think that would have been cute. And it would have made this sort of dubious element of IG-12 disappear. But you're right. The buttons, the yes no buttons for Grogu is a fantastic idea. Grogu being this mediator is a fantastic idea. I just don't know how to feel about this whole IG-11, IG-12 situation.
It's weird, and thankfully it's kind of resolved by the end, where
Yeah.
basically like they take the baby carrier away, and he's just a full complete droid all over again. And
Yeah.
we don't have to like wonder, or we don't have to like linger on that for too long. Okay, so let's just get fully into 8 now. The heroic sacrifice, right? Paz Vizsla, he goes out like a champ, right? Gets torn apart by the Praetorian Guard, yada yada. How do you feel about Gideon's suit? Because I feel like the way he comes down with his jetpack, it just he looks very stiff, and it just looks very awkward. And like the helmet too, where like it's like part Darth Maul, part like Mandalorian helmet, and it's just like I'm in the fight now. Like I got this armor, and like now like I can get involved in stuff, and it's just I don't know. I honestly I actually don't like it too much. I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting because it's clearly of a power equivalent to Densuit in terms of what it can withstand.
Sure.
I mean, we see Bo-Katan striking him like right across the chest with the dark saber multiple times without any real injury. It's a very imposing and hulking and heavy piece of armor. Like there's that point where Din is on the ground and then he rolls out of the way and Moff Gideon slams the ground and the ground like cracks a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I think it just goes back to, for me, we just don't know enough about what Moff Gideon's up to and what he's wearing and everything for it to really feel significant. Because for me, I think it's just like, I think it's cool armor, but like Din's armor is really cool because it means something, you know?
Yeah.
And we don't really know what this means.
It's weird because at the start of the episode, the last episode, like one of his like guards comes in. He's like, hey, like we're tracking hey, like Din, like we have two of the Mandalorians coming back in. Like he shows them on the map and stuff. He's like, do you want me to send a group? He's like, it's like no, like I'll take care of it. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go take care of it. Like, sure, buddy. Like, all right, like you know what I mean? It just like I said, it doesn't feel earned. It doesn't feel like if there had been any, I mean. At the end of season 2, we see him fighting with like that Beskar spear thing, that staff thing with the dark saber, right? It kind of like we get the idea, like, okay, he has some kind of fighting chops. But I just never felt like Gideon was supposed to be a physical threat. And just seeing him here being like trying to be a physical threat, it just feels I don't know. I just don't like it too much because I think he's more he to me he comes off more as a calculating villain. He's more not like Thrawn exactly, but kind of near like in that sphere of like we don't do fighting with this, we do fighting with this kind of guy, right? And like for him to like flip in, like I'll take care of it. It's like I don't know. It just like I don't know if it's like you're talking about that quippy writing or something. I don't know if that's what that is, but it just felt very kind of forced and kind of like hold on, like did we like where was the Gideon like training montage? You know what I mean? Like we didn't really get that, and just I don't know. I think at this point too, I was just fatigued of seeing him be the villain for 3 seasons in a row.
Right. I think it's cool. It's like Thrawn's also a badass, but when Thrawn throws down, it's very intentional.
Oh, that's right.
Here, it feels like all of the calculating Gideon stuff happens like off screen. He makes his clones and he sets up this whole base and everything, but we're only told about it. All that we see him do is just fight. And I don't think that balance is right. And again, it goes back to the fact that Gideon really was not in play until episode 7 of the show. So I just think that there's already this weird like knee jerk. Oh, Gideon's back and he's doing what? And you know, we gotta catch up with him here. I think that if we had more time, his emphasis on combat wouldn't be the emphasis. It'd just be a component of his overarching scheme and his situation and narrative. But we don't have the time for him to do anything other than punch Din. So,
okay,
for me, that's kind of the issue. I think
that makes sense. Yeah, I could see that word. Yeah, if it was more evenly split of the other stuff, then okay, yeah, I agree. That makes sense. We have Din telling R5 to go turn off, disable the doors one at a time, and then we have like this weird moment with these little mouse droids are just trying to like bully or nudge R5 out of the way. Like they're not really. There's like 3 or 4 of them that come out. They're just kind of like nudging him, and it's just I'm not. You're the film student, Abram. You're the film student. You know, you study film studies. Like, I know directors, everything they put in something in a movie or a show, whatever, is intentional. There's nothing that's just kind of just thrown out there for no reason. But like, I don't know, what was that about? It's kind of just silly, and I'm like, I don't know. Do we have to give R5 some kind of issues so he can't open the doors right on command every single time? Like,
It's strange for a number of reasons. Because first, Din says that he doesn't speak basic, so he can't communicate with R4.
no, he doesn't speak binary.
Binary, right? Sorry, he is speaking basic. He can't speak binary.
Yeah.
I feel like he should know how to do that. I feel like that's a weird wrinkle in their relationship already.
I think it's a one-way thing where, like, I think the droid understands it, but he can't understand. He's like, I'm sorry. He's like, I don't understand binary. Like, he doesn't know if the droid's saying yes or no. He's like, just do it. I don't know if you're saying yes or no. Just do it.
But then so one of my favorite scenes, it connects, I promise. So my favorite scenes in Revenge of the Sith is when R2 is in a similar situation that R4 is in. With the elevator on Grievous's flagship. And R2 is similarly confronted, but he's confronted by a pair of super battle droids. Now, what's fun about that sequence is that in the relationship between a super battle droid and an astromech droid, obviously the super battle droid has the complete upper hand.
And what's stupid little astromech droid? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And what I love about that scene is that R2 uses all of his tools to destroy those droids, get the elevator moving in the right direction. I think it's a really cool moment for R2-D2 as a character. Here, the mouse droids pose no threat to R4, and it seems like it's just sort of like a joke that one can't do anything, so he comes back with like 4 more. But like, is it funny? I don't know. And the other thing is Din is so concerned about, you get the door open right now, but there's no threat. You know? That's the other thing I don't really understand.
He already dispatched the guys, and he's like shouting at him, like, "Come on!" And I think it was because he had put up the smoke screen, right? Was he worried about the smoke screen like dissipating before the doors?
Yeah, I guess so.
I like that moment though. I do like how he's going up to, he's picking them off in pairs, and you just see the next pair just like they can't. It's like a very video gamey, you know, like you fight a crowd and like 2 at a time or whatever. But here it kind of makes sense because they can't just walk through the barrier, so they have to like wait their turn. I did like that kind of, he just like this boss rush of like these guys back to the end. By the time he gets to the end, he's just tired. I thought that was cool. Like it's like a nice callback to episode 1 where we have like Qui-Gon Jinn sits down, meditates, right? And we see just Darth Maul just like pacing. Yeah, it's something similar where Din's just like knocking guys off of these ledges, like beating the crap out of them, using that knife, using a blaster, using like he has like no weapons, so he has to like find everything on sight. I that was a very fun sequence. I love like how he's kind of doing that, and then you see the other guys like just waiting with their shields behind the walls, like waiting for their turn, and he just goes in like and just dispatches them. Like it's a really fun sequence aside from the mouse droid segment.
Yeah. I think this episode really makes Din seem like a badass, and that's cool because I feel like honestly sometimes he doesn't seem that way in combat. He's an ace pilot, and we see that often. But I like when we get to just watch him really cut loose and illustrate just how good of a fighter he is. And so, even though ultimately it is Grogu that saves him when he's first breaking free from those 2 Imperial officers. Watching him with his hands and feet and then just hands tied fighting them off is super fun and makes him seem really cool. And it's the same with this sequence, and you spelled it out perfectly. It's that fear you can feel in the Imperials. It's watching Din slowly like play gun game with himself and get better weapons every kill. Like it's a very cleverly orchestrated action sequence. And I also do love him with Grogu's help fighting the Praetorians.
Yeah.
That's super sick.
I never thought anything was going to happen to Grogu, but I still felt very tense when he was just jumping from chandelier thing to lamp. Like, I'm like, they're not going to kill Grogu. I know they're not going to kill Grogu. But how is he going to get out of this situation? I really did feel like anxiety. I'm like, he's lost his IG droid. He can't run away. Like, I'm like, they're not going to like flip the switch, right? Make him like just start force choking these guys, right? And thankfully they don't do that. But like, it's just very funny because like we see him kind of like walking. Grogu moves funny. He has like these little stubby legs, and he's just like hopping from light shade to lampshade, and like they're just kind of they're just like poking at him, like trying to cut the things to get him down, and it's like oddly humorous, but at the same time you do feel like, oh, like there is a sense of danger. Like he's locked in this other room, and Mando's got his hands full with Gideon, and then like how we basically. Oh, this is where we get the really dope sequence where Bo-Katan leads a army of jetpacking Mandalorians, and they're like fighting melee style in midair. Like she comes in leading with the darksaber, the armor comes in with the hammers, and they're just like swinging away in the air. Like, oh my god, that was so cool. Like I know a lot of it's just like very much just CGI kind of clutter. Once like they actually like come to conflict, you can't tell what the hell's going on at that point anymore. But when the camera does focus on Bo-Katan, and she's flying with the darksaber just swinging, and like every now and then you'll see like someone come close and she'll like smack, like just slice them. I was just like this is dope. That is really dope. I mean, a lot of time you can't really tell what's going on, but I think maybe my head just fills in the gaps, and it just seems like really cool. And the armor is just with no conventional weaponry, just the smithing hammers, just just swinging. So cool, man. I love that sequence.
Yeah, me too. It reminds me in terms of scale of some of the like the Tartakovsky Clone Wars, animated Clone Wars battles, where it's just like this big mess of people fighting, and you kind of get lost in the motion of the whole thing, but you just know that it's this crazy huge spectacle. And I love that. And then when we cut in and we get to see these we get to see the hammer swings or the darksaber slashes or what have you. These little moments within the overarching chaos, those are all super cool. So I really enjoyed that sequence too. The funny thing about Grogu and the Praetorians is it almost feels like when my cat will go under the couch and I can't get him out, and you're trying like, hey, get the fuck out of the couch,
Get the broom or something, just like
yeah. That's kind of what they're doing to Grogu, and there's something funny about it, but there's also something very like taunting about the whole thing too. So when Din just comes in with the fury of hell, and it's just fighting him, and he's on the ropes a little bit because the Praetorians are strong, and it's really communicated through that pause of sacrifice. But these guys you can't mess around with, and Din gets in trouble too. But Grogu, his new thing, he loves the force push.
Mm-hmm.
He loves the force push. He loves the force pull. He's really good at them now, and so to me, that's the perfect way for him to contribute to a fight. Because I still do take issue with like Grogu as this action hero, but him as like the little companion who knows when to pull the weapon away. I think that's the perfect way for his abilities to work with Din's abilities.
Yeah, I mean, if this was like a fighting game, he's like your assist character who comes
in
like 1-2 hits and then just bounces off screen. Like, yeah, he's just there to kind of just like put some room in between them, kind of like space them out. He's not really causing any serious damage. I think he's like setting up Mando for like the shots and stuff.
Yeah,
for the most part, like he's not. Yeah, he's kind of just the assist character. He's the the little psychic. He's not in there like scrappy and stuff because he can't really do that, right? But I just felt it's just really cool to see like where we started with Grogu, like season 1 as literally just a baby who gets tuckered out after using the Force for the slightest thing. And now here he is bouncing and hopping and force pushing. And like, I get it's cool to see this character just grow, like not physically grow, but in some instances, just like kinetically grow, I guess you could say. Maybe that's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he's just kind of just assisting him. And then fast forwarding a little bit, right? We get to the point where it's them and Bo-Katan, and they're all facing now off against Gideon. They come back in, right? I think Gideon has Bo-Katan like I think he's about to like deliver the finishing blow kind of thing, right? And then
because he's crushed the darksaber.
We finally got rid of that plot device. It's gone now. It's gone. There's I don't know what the point of that. Maybe they just didn't want to have that MacGuffin or that thing anymore. It seems like it caused more trouble than good. Just the whole leadership of Mandalore. Like, let's just get that thing out of the way. Like, let's not worry about that anymore. That's what it read to me kind of in a way. But you're right, he's crushed. She's down. Looks like he's about to kill him with like his little Magna Guard staff kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then comes in Din with his, just a couple little pot shots here, little pot shots just to distract him. And it's like, okay, we got the whole crew now all the crew together now. Now we're gonna go off against Gideon, and I've for some reason I blank out exactly how this. Oh no, that's right. Axe Woes makes he's guiding the Imperial Star Destroyer down into Mandalore. Aiming, the ship's like falling apart and burning, and he's pulling a Obi-Wan, another happy landing kind of thing, flying half a ship, kind of directed to where the base is. And we see it come through, scatters fire. A really quick detail I want to mention real quick. I like how when the TIE fighters go off, how they're like bats kind of like hanging upside down.
Yeah.
And they just like come down, drop, and then just like launch off. Like it just looked like I talked about this before. I love any scene where we're seeing like ships flying off or taking off or getting set up to take off like in unique ways. Just like they're just like falling down like bats, kind of like hanging in like on like stalagmites or whichever one's stalactites, whichever was the top one, and they kind of just like rocket off.
Yeah.
And how they like barely miss the Mandalorian vessels in the clouds coming down. I thought that was kind of funny. We're like okay, let's abandon the Star Destroyer and like let's go start down. Like let's go down. And like a few seconds later, you just see the TIE fighters break through the cloud cover, and it's like, oh, like they just miss each other. I thought that was kind of funny. So
Yeah, and so Axe bringing down the capital ship causes the explosion that kills Gideon, and we get Grogu using the Force again to make a nice protective bubble. And as somebody nicely paralleled on Twitter, it's not far off from what Kanan did.
That's what I was thinking too.
Even though obviously that led to Kanan's death, and here Grogu saved them, but it's still just a striking image of the power of the Force. So I thought that I feel like Grogu's development in the Force feels quite satisfying in a way that I don't feel like other elements of the character maybe necessarily do. Like as we were talking about him in the previous part of this review about like his Mandalorian training or whatever. But to that point, Andrew, he is now a Mandalorian apprentice.
I like that moment. That was really sweet. Where it's like, yep, he's still a family. He can't be an apprentice. Like his parents he can't speak the oath. And he doesn't have like parental permission. And he's like, well, I don't know where his parents are. They're probably far, far away. He's like, all right, I want to adopt him. And it's like, oh, like, I mean, like as an audience, we kind of always saw that relationship anyways. They have a very much like father, son, even though Grogu is probably older, but like, like this weird, it's kind of like Joel Ellie situation thing, right? Where like adoptive parent in name, basically, right? In everything but name, maybe. And he finally does a thing, right? He makes him his official apprentice. Grogu is now a force wielding Mandalorian, whatever Yoda species is thing. And there it is, right? And we have Grogu. Yeah, he can't speak. I think they do. Do they show him going to the living waters? I don't remember that part.
No, they don't.
He like starts to walk towards it, right? And then kind of just cuts away. And then apparently,
he's now Din Grogu.
I thought it would be the other way around. Grogu Jardin.
This is what people are saying, because I'm not sure that Din Grogu makes sense.
That's like the first name, right? Din is the first name, right?
Right.
That's weird. But maybe that's how Mandalorians do it. I don't know. Because Jango Fett and Boba Fett's not like.
Yeah, and as people were saying on Twitter, it's Lady Kryze. It's not Lady Bo.
Yeah. That's weird. Okay.
But I love the final shot of the season. The dad sitting out in his lawn as the little kids playing, Grogu once again tormenting a frog. Nothing can beat, as much as I'm not crazy about that episode, the shot of him training with Luke and like his face lighting up as Luke raises a million frogs out of the water. but Grogu getting his frog as we do this sort of iris wipe to black. It's a simple shot, but the whole finale was simple and satisfying and hit the notes needed to hit, and that was basically what it did.
Yeah, it felt very conclusive. I mean, I don't think I hung around a bit, and there was no like mid or post credits.
Yeah,
I'm like, this felt like we kind of just wrapped up everything. And like, I mean, he goes to I forget what the planet's called, but he goes back to the Rebel pilot, now New Republic pilot, and is like, hey, like, I understand, you guys need some more patrolling in the Outer Rim. He's like, I'm a bounty hunter by trade. Like, here, like, let me like freelance, basically, what it sounds like for you, kind of. And he's like, oh, like, we won't really do that. He's like, okay, we'll just do it under the table. We'll just do it under the table. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
right. We have like, give me that IG droid head. He's like, all right, puts together IG-11. He's like, here you go. We wrapped up everything neatly. It's like, I'm back to bounty hunting. You have a new marshal. I have now this home, this player home that you basically given me to go and settle down until my next adventure. It really just felt like we're tying up all these things because we're not sure yet what the Filoni movie is going to play out. So I kind of seem like we're going to wrap up everything because we're not sure yet what the next big thing is going to be quite yet. That's how I felt.
Yeah, people are saying online like it almost feels like a series finale instead of a season finale.
Mm-hmm.
And there is definitely a sense of closure, despite the fact that the Mythosaur doesn't come back around, despite the fact that the spies thing is kind of weird, despite the convert episode not really going anywhere, just despite what really is at the core of the Mandalorian, the relationship between Din and Grogu reaches a resolution. Grogu grows, Din grows. The central thrust of season 3 being the recapture of Mandalore happens. Everything that needed to happen happened, and everything left like hanging loose was not central to, I think, leaving the audience feeling satisfied with sort of what the characters accomplished.
Yeah, it's like, what happened to Dr. Pershing? Hell if I know. Doesn't matter. That's not part of the central story. What is Kane up to? She's clearly playing the Republic. Oh, well, we'll probably develop that in a comic book or something. I don't know. It's like everything central to our core cast is resolved. We'll have our happy ending. I feel like it kind of played it safe. But at the same time, I kind of feel like if something major happened, people would be upset. So I don't know. I feel like we should have got something. I don't know. I was waiting for that oh my god moment to happen in the season finale, and we just never got like I was expecting them to bring back Luke like they did for the second season or anything like that. But it just kind of felt like okay, like I guess this is where we're at. This is fine. So
yeah, it felt like we barreled towards the conclusion. We hit the conclusion and we had to get out. But not really, because Andor does something very similar. Andor ends even more in the action than Mando season 3 does.
yeah,
but there's a sense of purpose to that. Whereas this really felt like, okay, we got to check out the boxes and zoom. And this is not really how I wanted the season to end.
yeah. How do you feel? Okay, so everyone, would you say? Would this? I don't know if it's a hot take. Would you say that this is the least satisfying season of Mandalorian?
Andrew, I agree with you. I really think that, unfortunately, to me, Mando season 3 is like, honestly, Book of Boba Fett quality.
I wouldn't go that far, but okay.
I think I might also just, because there's a lot of stuff about Book of Boba Fett I like, but my thoughts on them are similar in that it felt like for every moment I enjoyed, there was just this sense that we didn't know where we were going. You're right. There was up and down. I mean, I really think that, episode 2 of Book of Boba Fett, when we see Boba with the clan and they're doing the train heist and he's being sort of ingratiated into their ways of life, is amazing. And then we fall off a cliff, and then we come back and we fall off a cliff, and then we do Mando episodes, which frankly might be better than some of the Mando episodes we get in actual Mando season 3. And so the overarching feeling to me is the same. There's just too much going on. Even season 2, which of Mandalorian, which I'm iffy on, especially when we get to the back half, it felt a lot more intentional to me than this. And obviously, season 1 of Mandalorian, in my opinion, is like all the way up here. I think that's exceptional. So I enjoyed Mandalorian season 3. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I feel like I have just a lot of asterisks on that, which I didn't expect given what The Mandalorian has been in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like at this point, cross-referencing all the episodes of who made which episodes, we should just give the franchise to Carl Weathers and Bryce Dallas Howard, because I was looking like which episodes, like who did the finale, and it was I can't pronounce his name because with the F.
Yeah, it's Rick Fumiura.
There we go.
I believe.
Because I'm like, this finale just, I don't know, like it wrapped up everything, but also just there was no oh wow moments, or like, I mean, there were cool moments, right? Like I gushed about like the like lightsaber wall thing,
Yeah.
and the flying and the clashing in the air and all that stuff, but like it. I wish I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a very, I don't know. What's the term I'm looking for? When you feel like you're owed something and you're not
Entitled? Yeah.
Maybe I'm just a very entitled Star Wars fan. All right, maybe I just been spoiled with past Mandalorian seasons, so I'm like, I feel like this doesn't live up. And with the fandom being what it is, people would be like, oh, like, you're entitled, or you're toxic, or you're wishing for too much. But I'm like, no, because they set a good precedent with the first two seasons being very coherent, a very like coherent line through from beginning to end. And here it's like you said, like we didn't even, the whole thing about Gideon's transport being, like there was like this false kind of red herring being like, oh, there was Beskar discovered at his crash site. Oh, Mandalorians must have freed him. And it's like no, he's been working with Beskar like on his, on Mandalore, and like those are his own people who probably like ambushed the carrier or whatever. And it's just like this whole thing about like at the end still being like the big bad, and I'm just like, oh, like we're doing this kind of again, like I don't know. So I don't know. The highs are really high. Like I love the pterodactyl episode. I love the second episode where Bo-Katan saves him from that weird spider droid organic thing. Like, but then like every other episode, like you said, is just like kind of. So this feels like the least consistent season of Mandalorian so far. I like what it's setting up, like it's introducing these characters, like with stuff that we know what it's going to end up becoming later on and stuff. Especially like he said, this feels like set up for Ahsoka. And that could be it. Maybe it is because they're trying to do the MCU style film. Maybe that's why this season kind of had less of an identity, maybe because it's trying to do the Age of Ultron thing of setting up other stuff. So like we're losing the focus on what this particular show should be, the kind of like setup stuff. So
yeah, I really think that's it. Because Mando season 1 was encumbered by nothing. It had its place in the timeline, but it didn't really matter. It didn't have to sort of precipitate anything from Force Awakens. It didn't need to call back anyway to Return the Jedi. It just had to sort of
striking out on its own.
Yeah. And then season 2 started to build the seeds of what we now know as the colloquial Mandoverse. And Book of Boba Fett and season 3 of Mando feel similar to me in that each of these shows marches a little further from the intent of Mando season 1. They're marching more towards this notion of let's tie all this together. And I just don't necessarily think that's the way. But I do feel as though Ahsoka could really be the satisfying moment that this season wasn't, and that between Rebels and between Mando, we've set the stage for Thrawn, and we've set the stage for our cast of characters, and now it's time for them to come to a head. But it also makes me worried that maybe it's not that this is setting up for Ahsoka, it's that this and Ahsoka are going to set up for the movie. And maybe we have to wait for the movie for that big payoff. But I think you're right. I think that we delayed the payoff. We changed the intent. We made the show about something different in Mando season 3. And we now, much like those silly Marvel fans, have to be waiting for the next installment to continue these narratives. So yeah, I wanted to be more holistically positive about Mando, but I think that it's cemented itself pretty firmly now when I look at it as a show overall, The Mandalorian, Andor, Obi-Wan, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. It's kind of where to come down on it.
Now, when you rank Mandalorian in there, you're ranking them all 3 seasons as one.
Yeah, looking at Mando as one overarching story now.
Okay. Yeah, huh. I don't know. I feel like in my mind, I feel like Obi is tied with Mando
Sure.
just because Obi-Wan does a lot of cool, exciting stuff. But it's just so short, and I feel like a lot of stuff is kind of just crammed in there. Like, I don't know. And then just where we leave off with kind of we're back to square one with Vader and Obi-Wan. Like, it felt like because the way it was made, right? Like, I felt like this didn't have to take place, and of course we know because of the movies, like it, for all intents and purposes, it didn't take place, but it did because of the Disney Plus stuff and stuff. But like, I don't know. I think I like Grogu and Mando's relationship. Like, I'm a sucker for that kind of like Joel and Ellie kind of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I love that. I love the adventures of Din Djarin and Grogu when they're just doing the villain of the week kind of stuff. Like, I feel like Mando is much more enriching than Kenobi is, I think.
Sure.
So I think other with Andor, of course, being on top and Boba being on the bottom, I think I would just make that little switch. But other than that, I'm there with you.
I mean, if I were to break it down by season, it would go Andor, Mandalorian season 1, then Obi-Wan, and then Mando season 2, Mando season 3, Book of Boba Fett for me, I think.
See, even there, I'm maybe open to season 2 of Mando.
Season 2, and yeah, that's a fair trade to make. I think I could even be talked around to that trade. But it also sort of solidifies to me that I think there's kind of a clear ranking. Like, there's a clear power ranking in the Disney Plus Star Wars shows, I feel.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Which it'll be interesting to see where Ahsoka lands in that. And then it'll be really interesting to see where Skeleton Crew and Acolyte lie, considering those are, you would assume, going to be like Andor, pretty detached from what Filoni and Favreau are cooking up in their little corner of the universe.
Yeah, I'm not even sure where Skeleton Crew takes place, like timeline wise. Do you know? Because I don't remember.
No.
I think they said it was somewhere around like post Return of the Jedi, but I don't know how far post that is. Because I mean, post Return of the Jedi is like 30 years, anywhere between 1 and 30 years. So you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, so but yeah, I think Skeleton Crew and Ahsoka come out this year. I don't think. Does Acolyte come out this year?
Acolyte's 2024, I believe.
Okay, so yeah, Skeleton Crew is like the last live action Star Wars we get this year. So that'll be interesting to see where that fits for us. But yeah, Mando's had its ups and downs. Personally, I would do Andor, Mando 1, Mando 2, Kenobi, Mando 3, Boba. Yeah, so that's where we're at with it.
But Andrew, we're going to be back very soon, actually.
Oh,
because Visions drops in.
Take a break from the live action stuff.
Yeah, head over to Visions, which is out in 2 weeks from tomorrow, I believe. And then
May 4th, whenever May 4th is.
Yeah, I think that's 2 weeks from tomorrow. I'm not 100% positive, but I'm pretty sure. And then we'll be back not too long after that with our review of Jedi Survivor.
Oh, that's right. That's next week. Did you pre-order yet? Or we pre-ordered?
I haven't pre-ordered yet. I still haven't decided if I'm... Honestly, what I'm probably going to do is, like, next Wednesday, I'm just going to buy it off the PSN and download it. I'll talk this big game about, maybe I'll go to the store and get a copy of it for my shelf. But by next Wednesday, I'll be like, fuck it, I don't want to go out. And I'll just have it freeloading. But I'm trying to decide where I want to play it. I think I'll probably just play it on PlayStation.
Yeah. I mean, what are your... Oh, we have Xbox. That's right.
Yeah. But...
Although you can't play it on your precious Switch, Abram.
I can't. I can't. Sadly. That's really all I have to say. Sadly, I can't play on Switch. But yeah, it's a next-gen only experience, Andrew. So we'll see the full power of the PS5 in this one. Yeah, not even RE4 was PS5 exclusive. So
wait, we're doing that before Visions, right? Or how long is the game? We don't even know.
I feel like the game is probably gonna be fairly long.
So who knows?
The point is, you've got 2 compelling episodes coming soon. You also are then going to have a KOTOR episode. But that's kind of the roadmap. And then Andrew, I think we should do a High Republic episode.
Okay.
Maybe because we're gonna do a book club that we never did. I actually tried reading that book again. I'm like, I just can't do this.
It's too long.
It's too fucking long.
I'm
But
looking at it right now. Like it's a girthy book.
I think a book club of like the first volume of the High Republic comics or something would be really fun.
I'll have to catch up on that. I still have Marvel Unlimited, so I can do that. But
yeah,
I haven't read any of the High Republic comics. I need to do that.
Yeah, but Andrew, we've done it. We've discussed the entirety of Mando season 3, and I think by the time I append this section to the current video file, we're gonna have like another 4 hour. Actually, no, this one's gonna be close to like 3:15. Andor's over 4 hours, I believe. But
it warrants it. It warrants it.
It warrants it. And this is a long time, so nobody complain. You're getting a lot of Star Wars. But Andrew, hit me with it.
May the Force be with you.